Mental health and wellness is so important in the world of gaming.
For me, mental health is the most underrated thing.
It's important to take a break from that competition to reset yourself.
We're all kind of like an extended family. We have to look at each other like that could be my brother or my sister.
I promote
and practice positive mental health.
Oh my goodness! Okay, let's go!
Brutal and beautiful.
So wild, I can never be tamed. Talk around, cause I'm breaking the chain. Breaking the chain. Breaking the chain. So wild, I can never be tamed. Breaking the chain. Breaking the chain. Try me, you'll be feeling the pain. Talk around, cause I'm breaking the
The gloves are off. The table is set. Game is on. Welcome to the Apex Legends Global Series Pro League. My name is T-Squared. We got Glitter Explosion. Thank you both so much for being here. Today is going to be very much an exciting one. Tom, let's start with you. Is today the beginning of that playoff pursuit, and for others, the beginning of that redemption run?
It really is, because now we have a new season. Season 11 came out. We have a new character. We have a new legend, Ash, coming out. We have a new map as well. So the gamers had a little bit of time to go and adjust and make some certain changes that we will be alluding to a little bit later. But it's an exciting time for Apex, and I'm excited to get this kicked off with y'all.
We're excited as well. First little thoughts here at the beginning of our.
I mean, it's been a little bit for me, so I'm excited to get back on the desk with you guys. I'm excited to talk about all things Apex, and like Tom was saying, they've had a little bit of a break, our players have, and there might be some switch-ups here and there, so I'm excited to see how all of that kind of comes together and really affects our games today.
Absolutely. Well, if you're like Glitter and all of us here, we've had some time between those matches, as she mentioned. We put together a little highlight reel for the last time we saw EMEA A versus C. Check these highlights out.
Bryn staying alive for now, and oh my word, Bryn is doing some magic inside of the zone, jumps into the void. If he can find a rock to heal behind, then this would be massive for Invictus Gaming.
Has to run, can't miss any shots here, and he's just picked up some extra KP as well.
Look at this, he's found himself a sneaky little spot, and he's unfortunately slid down, but those few seconds could be enough here. Won't be credited with that knock, won't be able to finish off that down as well, but Sirius is doing serious work, but it will finally be eliminated here by Eternal.
They notice it's a duo, and they're right there. They're winding up around the rock, and they do manage to get a knock.
There's one team on the other side here. Roof, look, roof.
Yeah, I am.
Dead side, they decide to push a team here. 3v3 fight, good shots being put in. Connects for a few. Can he get the knock? Yes, he does. Dead inside, all up to Stanley last alive.
He's in everybody's line of sight, and to the knocks, guys. Gambit Esports capitalizing off of that.
Shoot them. Give me. No problem. No. Batting. One more. Walk up.
Great shots from the triple take, but now it's not looking so comfortable for them. Alliance down to just one. Hackis will be eliminated. Hardeki goes up against one, can't get the armor swap though. Invictus swooping in. It's Artico versus the world. Invictus, they pick up the win here in game number 3.
Look at this. Look how many squads have to move.
Look how many people are going to be dropping down soon. Rascals playing out this dome. They're both broken. We just have Alpha with the shield, but not for long.
Uxako pushing him, needs to get there desperately to help his teammates. And we see some good damage being put in with the Ava, or so the R301, great head glitch. Gonna go on top, get high ground with the Ava 8. Connects for a great shot, and he has to clutch a 1v2. The flank's gonna come through. A 1v2 clutch is gonna happen. Kick is gonna do it. What a showing, what a performance from Kick.
Gambit want to get involved here. They want to get this fight done and dusted.
3 squads remaining. Gambit overlooking everything, and Strafey falls. Na'Vi are getting shredded, and now the third party's also there.
Gambit going to move in, but Artico will go down, and now they only have 2 standing. Good shots coming in from Hardeki though with the Eva 8. He'll get the knock as well, but surely this has just opened the door for Alliance to walk in. No! Hardeki!
See Gambit Esports now putting themselves out in the opening. Nice to know that there's another squad right behind them, but these Arc Stars getting the break, getting them down.
Defensive bombardment's going to come through. That's going to be huge. That's going to force LCDF to pop their bubble, and they won't have it for the late game.
And Alpha got a knock in the process right before the dome had gone out. That's absolutely huge here. That's good. It's for Rascals, but there is still a squad holding the inside of the building. They may not want to fully send it, but they have to still poke out eventually because they're going to get stuck in circle here.
Here comes the fight. It's going to be Alpha Draft flanking wide left with 8 connecting for almost every shot. Joke is going to absolutely lay into their opponents, but in the end, it's Rascals who comes out on top as your champions of game number 6.
And that is what we like to see, action-packed from beginning to end. As we take a look at our EMEA overall leaderboards, Glitter, I want you to tell me about what you're looking out for in today's matches, especially since we just saw A versus C, but of course, do you know today is going to be B versus C?
Of course. I mean, and as you guys see here, you're going to notice a little bit something different on the standings. In the green, those are the teams that are right now in a good spot to be qualifying through. And as we look down the rest of the list, you'll see teams in yellow and red. And those are the ones in yellow will be the ones maintaining their spots, whereas the ones in red will be dropped if that's where they end up at the end when everything is all said and done. But honestly, I'm looking for, I mean, we saw those highlights from what happened last time around. I'm looking for that level of intensity, and I want to see some consistency out of these squads.
Absolutely. Well, and consistency is an interesting word you just used there, because what we're going to show you here in a second, Tom, is definitely something that has changed. Today, these are the teams you will be looking at in our lobbies. As we said, this is the double portion of that double round robin format. So they're going to face each other once again here for the second time as we are in the middle of our season. But Tom, one of the big changes, and there's a lot today, has got to be some of these rosters, particularly one that really helped out K-Swinny.
Yeah, anytime that there is a long form, split like this, there's going to be some sort of maybe tension that goes on between the teams, or maybe you're just not performing up to expectations, and that's what's happening right here as Harold's going to come in onto underrated, and then K-Swinny, he's going to be bouncing on over to another team, so not out of the Pro League, so it's going to be exciting to see how these new teams do with this new season that we have.
Absolutely, and I will say also, Tom, I'm pretty sure that by going from underrated to 69 IQ, K-Swinny went up, I think, 11 roster points, or excuse me, not roster points, 11 places in our overall leaderboard, so it's not a bad place for him to be, certainly. And I want to also mention that today we will see underrated in our play, but on Sunday, which is when our second round of EMEA kicks off, that's when you'll see all of these newly minted, shuffled teams, rosters playing on down for sure. Variety is the spice of life. Glitter, at this point, like, my goodness, I mean, the roster shuffle's got to play into a little bit of the headspace of some of these teams.
Oh, 100%. I mean, like you were saying, depending on what the shuffle was, for some players, it got them higher spots in the overall rankings. It might change up their roles on the squads. We're going to have to see, but that's what we were talking about when we were alluding to those switch-ups earlier. I mean, it could have some massive impact.
Ooh, massive impact. That's kind of fun. Well, let's talk about some of those players and those teams particularly that I know you and Tom have been looking at, which means it's time for our Lenovo teams to watch. And Tom, I said it once before, and I'll say it again and again like a one-trick pony. The hardest decision you got to make today is what you're looking at here. Talk to me about that first team out the gate that you were looking at for today's EMEA Pro Play.
So many tough teams here, but we're going to have to go with top dogs because of the consistency that we were talking about earlier. And it's not easy to be consistent in the EMEA region because it's just so unpredictable on how these players are going to play and how they're going to play on any given day because how evenly stacked everybody is. But you can see Mimu on the crypto there, and that's going to be super crucial here to see what exactly everyone's going to go and play. Well, we see a lot of cryptos. We see a lot more in EMEA than we do in North America. Sometimes we see Bloodhound, but with the new season, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and then the next team we have here to watch is Maestro, okay? Now, Maestro, I talked about consistency earlier, and that's one of the reasons I want to keep my eyes on them this time around. They've had 2 pretty solid weeks back-to-back. Now, my real question is, are they going to be able to continue this momentum? They are currently only one of 2 teams with multiple wins on a day for the EMEA region, the other one being Gambit. But, I mean, the real question for me is, can they continue that?
And Gambit, that's some pretty good company because Gambit's first overall. I'm going with the team that's 10th overall here in Alliance because of the fact that they are sitting on the bubble. And Hackies is one of the strongest slayers that we have. And I'm really waiting to see Alliance come into full form because I don't think 10th place on the bubble is where they want to be. They want to secure something a little bit more secure and get up there and maybe say the top 5 where they feel that they actually belong. So I'm excited to see how Alliance is going to do.
Well, we've got some great teams to watch, certainly, and I cannot wait to see that gameplay kick off, which will be in just a moment here. That has been your Lenovo teams to watch. Excellent. Well, you know what? That's about all the time we got, but I think we have some talent predictions. Am I right? No? Not right? Nope. We're going to go, and you know what? Apologies here. You know what? we need to go into gameplay right away. Let's get this action started, which means I'm going to take off for a minute. Thank you all for watching, and over to you now, Tom and Glitter.
Well, thank you, Kate. And a spoiler alert, I think Kate went with solo Q Ghost today, which is a chat favorite. So I want to hear how the chat's feeling. Glitter, how are you feeling? Spam your favorite team in there. Put the emojis. Just type it out if you don't have the emojis. But it is time, Glitter. Let's get this started.
Yeah, I'm glad that you asked because I was wondering what chat's vibes were for today, how they thought today was going to go, a little bit of downtime between the last time we played and what we've got going on here. And you talked about it. There's the possibility to see a little bit more Ash coming in. We're going to have to wait and see how that goes. But we're starting off with solo Q Goats, so you know Kate has to be happy.
And you know when a new legend comes out, Shiv doesn't care because it's Bangalore all day, baby. And they go over towards Skyhook and Trials. It's going to be fun to see what kind of loot that they're going to always get. A team that plays the edge, a team that loves to take fights. I would say over half the games, and don't quote me on this, they are the first team to fight. But EMEA, they're so used to each other. They understand the rotations. They are going to know when teams are going to be flanking them. And Solo Q Goats has to be aware of that, and they have to play a little bit more patient so they can avoid the third parties here. But when we look at compositions, I think that Valkyrie, Gibraltar, definitely going to be high pick rates. Looking at the thirds, Loba, Wraith, Octane kind of falling out of suit with the recent nerfs, but I am excited to see Ash. Glitter, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I hope we get to see her just to see kind of how she plays into the current meta right now. But obviously, I mean, with Valkyrie and just like the staples that we have right now in the meta, we probably won't see too much Ash, but when we do, I think I'm going to be excited for it.
Yeah, no doubt about it, especially when it comes to the rotations. But you can see the top 10 from each region right now. Maestro, the team that you were looking at, sitting in third place. When we're looking at overall players, though, got to give credit to Sonya coming in on Maestro. Second overall in kills here, Glitter, with 33, right behind Guild's Horizon. Also looking at other players that are inside this lobby. Graceful on Kick, 5th overall. And you also have another player, or excuse me, from Kongarna. And then on Kick, you have Orion right there in 6th place with 29 kills. So pretty stacked Slayers in this lobby. I think Hacky's, again, the player that I was looking out for, needs to get up there and play aggressive as well if Alliance wants to be successful.
Yeah, and if you guys didn't catch Tom's hint there, Maestro was my pick for the talent predictions. So, you know, I'm hoping that they are able to do well for themselves here today because that would be really, really solid start to the weekend. But, I mean, looking at the zone there, we did see it pop up, another Southern shift, starting off the day with a Southern shift, that is. So all these teams that we're looking at that are now, you know, on the northern end of the zone, Skyhook, we're going to be looking to making those rotations that you were just talking about.
Yeah, Valkyrie is going to be so crucial throughout all that, but Top Dog's our first team to watch overall, finding themselves in a little bit of a skirmish over here towards the survey side, or excuse me, through the lava side, and you also see some nice shots coming in from 0-0. That's going to be a battery having to be popped, but when you get inside here in your crypto, and you have this beacon that you can continuously scan over and over again, it's going to be so nice to lock down the lava siphon area, and it's going to be Kick trying to share and coexist this spot. Now, a lot of zones will continue to pull on over here, but that's going to be the first knock. You can't see who it is because we actually have the APOC South teams coming up on there. If you didn't catch it, it's Flora in first place in their region. Also, Esports Arena surprising everybody on the North American side, but Kick surprising everybody with the first knock coming through. Not able to get the flush, so you can see still 60 players remaining, but they're considering making a move here.
I mean, you were talking about how we were looking for that early game aggression out of the EMEA region. It just happens to be Kick that was ready to do that, but they do decide to back off, kind of reassess the situation, decided that it's not worth pushing too hard in that engagement right now because obviously position's going to be king and they want to make sure that they are there and that they get the exact position that they want to put themselves in a solid spot for endgame.
And positioning is super key, especially when you're running this double rotation composition with the Wraith, so you could go and portal through when you absolutely need it. You're going to have the redeploy from Valkyrie as well if you want to get out of dodge and try to make a longer rotation. Back on board with Uprising, and I just love seeing these type of compositions. Every team really running something that they enjoy and that they kind of vibe with. Typically we see Valkyrie or Wraith in this type of composition, but no Gibraltar, so this is super interesting from Uprising. If they end out in the open like they are right now, it could be a little bit deadly, and there they go, Glitter. They're making way on over towards the zone. We'll see if any teams are stopping them in tree.
Yeah, they're already in the safe zone right now. Going to see if they can start maybe holding down one of these buildings. That's what, you know, Caustic's going to be perfect for in these scenarios. And they didn't run into any sort of pushback from any enemy teams on their way over. So they are looking like they're in a pretty safe position right now. probably going to be looking to see if they can pick up any loot here, add to their overall loot total right now, make sure that they're set up and they've got vision on any potential squads that could be rotating in. And as I say that, I think that's exactly what they're looking towards.
That's what they're doing. They're going to hop in that crypto drone, try to fly around. We did see some player outlines and teams that looked like they were over towards the choke, and there goes the ping. Crypto drone with the strafe over here, being a little difficult to hit. Checking out over towards the banners too, getting a really high point of view over here to get all those pings. And one of the beautiful things, again, with the crypto drone, you can see how many teams are within that 200-meter facility on top of the banner. You saw 3 squads in the area, and now it looks like we are basically slow-mo over here. Look at the scenery over in World's End. It's a nice day out for Apex, and it's nice to see all the teams kind of keeping it cordial here, Glitter. No major fights happening quite yet.
Listen, that's only because it's the first game. As you already jinxed it here, Tom, we see shots coming out from Rats onto a squad that is kind of in their rotation path, but we see the Wraith coming through, trying to not take the fight. It seems like they're just trying to make it through that choke and not have to deal with anybody along the way. Rats also backing off. It's these early game engagements, people look like they want to poke a little bit, and then they decide it's just safer to back off.
I'm not sure what kind of shot you would need to deal with Rats. Probably tetanus or something along those lines, but I'm not sure what's going on with that team. They're not interested, so they're going to go and say, you know what, Rats, you guys are in last place. We're going to leave this fight and let you guys figure it out by yourselves. And this is an interesting composition. Again, oh, nice little Ash Portal coming through to get them out of the way. Problem is, a little bit of miscommunication. They used the bubble, which is going to be a big utility down for the next 25 seconds over here, as you can see. They are getting out of dodge, making their way on over towards Geyser. Tough spot to beat because if, again, you are playing Edge, this is the composition that you would typically want to play. However, there is going to be a lot of resistance going on over towards that southern side. A lot of teams are going to be making their way from the north all the way down over here. Teams like Solo Q Goats that landed over towards Trials. We're not sure what they're up to, but there's going to be a lot of action as we see what Solo Q Goats is doing. They're still on the edge. They have diff with the redeploy up in about 70%, so they can't go and use that one. But look at that as we go around. A lot of teams are going to have to deal with Glitter.
Yeah, and we did see them having to share their meds here as they're trying to make their way through the zone. And this could get a little bit scary for Solo Q Goats. Like you were saying, there are a lot of squads that have to make this rotation down from the northern edge of the map. And it looks like Solo Q Goats realize that there are squads around and trying to see if they can catch any in their crosshairs, while also trying to make sure that they are keeping themselves healed up, because right now, to have to fight in the zone, if they don't have enough meds to do so, that could be a little bit rough.
I'm curious to see how they're going to deal with this situation. Let's hop it in with a listen-in with Solo Q Goats.
I don't have that many meds. I mean, I just want the beacon at the end of the day. 50 on him up top. I have 2 syringes left, that's it.
Oh. Running bang out. I only have 1 syringe after this.
Just back up, guys. Back up. You're taking way too much damage. It's actually scary.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I'm moving back really late. They might look like at me. I'm really far from you guys, so. Yeah. I only have like 1 syringe as well. Fuck.
We're gonna go back.
I already have flight again, but I don't know.
I'm gonna go in this building, see if I can loot up some flash meds.
I don't know, I have 1 syringe. I'm gonna go down here. Cause I'm gonna go down and you rest me, okay?
Yeah, put him back up. Here.
Go scan and harvester, I guess. I don't fucking know. That's kind of the fight we want there. I feel like we just maybe just skip-ult them and just fight them, or we just move up right away instead of like crouching. We just run up on them. There's only 1 guy on height, should be fine. Blue ammo. If we hit him hard, I can fly up on him.
You have any meds or no?
I got 5
I have 1
here,
syringe.
Couple 3.
Syringe here.
There's a crafter here.
Let's check out this way.
We need to craft 1 medkit or something.
There's a trap here, don't walk into it.
Okay.
There's traps all over here. Just dodge them. Here as well. Or here.
Enemy trap here.
Yeah.
Probably here too, maybe. I don't know.
Let's stick a bit close together. I don't like how split we are.
Yep.
We can't really grab zone 4.
Well, thank God for that gold bag, Glitter, and thank God for Trials loot, because they needed to pull something out there. There was teams gatekeeping all over the place, and now they're going to be safe just for a little bit. Most likely going to redeploy out of here.
Yeah, that was a smart decision there to back off. We heard them talking as soon as we jumped into that listen. We heard them talking about how they just didn't have enough meds. They were trying to share the little amount that they did have, but the gold bag really is what saved them there. Switching on over, though, we finally see some fights starting to break out. We've got double bubbles and everything.
Yeah, double bubbles, double trouble over here as you're going to see one knock coming through. There's another Arc Star coming in. That's going to be 7, 8, 9 going in on the Rascals, and now Paradise having to dip on out of here. Doesn't matter how many cells you have. If you're not able to use them, you also are going to have to pop that last battery as the Q is going to be down, and it looks like that's going to be it for Paradise and Rascals here, unless they can do something phenomenal. But there's the Arc Star. There's the last shots. 7, 8, 9 not playing around. As you can see, they are going to help out and double team the Rascals as they're our first team eliminated.
They are, but 7, 8, 9 looks like they might be forced into yet another engagement. I believe it was Rats trying to push in potentially third party this after they heard all those shots coming out from the fight, seeing if they can maybe pick up some KP here, but looks like 7, 8, 9 was able to get a decent amount of their heals off. They have reset, and they're already looking the direction of Rats. So it looks like they're okay for now, but they do eventually want to at least rotate and get somewhere a little bit safer.
Hop in, loser. We're going shopping as Believer is going to toss that one out, and you can see a lot of loot was on the ground after those kills, so they're going to be A-okay. It was Rats, Glitter. They are looking to get involved over here as the Q is going to be tossed out from Sorbin, but this is an interesting spot because when there's one fight, and it's the first fight, there's going to be a lot of third parties that are going to happen. We have round 3 just popping up, so some teams will have a scan on to round 4 if we could potentially pull that up. Maybe it's going to be a crypto team that helps us out and shows us where this zone is going to pull, but this is such a sketchy fight for both teams.
I mean, you know that these teams are like sharks when they smell blood in the water. As soon as there's the first fight of the game, everyone, if they're close enough, is going to try to get in on it, see if they can get any extra points for the squad. First game of the day. And as we can see, the zone has just continued to shift towards the south, making all of these rotations even harder for those squads on the northern end.
Yeah, it's a heavy launch site pull. You can see a lot of those teams on that north-hand side are going to have to deal with each other. And there's a lot of gatekeeping, levels and layers of gatekeeping that are happening with 19 squads remaining. These are the zones where everyone just starts to go out in round number 3 and 4. Half the team's most likely going to be eliminated here. 7, 8, 9 and Rats still coexisting right next to each other, but it looks like Rats is finally making a play.
And he had perfect line of sight down onto the Gibby, trying to potentially maybe grabbing some stuff out of Loba's market, but we see the Q coming out of the Ash. We were asking for the Ash play. Rats is bringing it to us right now in spades, and they've been doing okay for themselves, but one does go down on Rats, and it looks like 7, 8, 9 once again with the aggression.
Clean PK shots there from Sorbin, making sure that they're watching the high ground throughout all of that, and 7, 8, 9 going to be eliminated. Somehow Rats was able to cleanly pull that one off. I mean, the discipline from Sorbin, also the audio cues to come up and catch the Valkyrie out of place right there. Absolutely phenomenal. It's always nice when that PK hits for over 100 damage. They're also going to be able to have that black market to go and use throughout all of that. Kingarna setting up in a prime spot over here, but they are just on the edge of the zone. A lot of those teams from the north-hand side are going to have to go through Kingarna.
It looks like they're dealing with quite a few ultimates coming out right now as well. And if they decide to drop down, there's going to be some serious danger from below. We see the Arc Stars being tossed up as the team decides to push up on Kingarna. Already they're very low. JMW goes down, and this is not looking good for Kingarna right now.
Not at all. They get wiped. It was the Arc Star heard around the world. It was a Kobe up over towards that platform, just dominating and taking them out. IG International looks like they are also in a skirmish over here. Caustic gas is going to go down. Nox gas grenade. A thermite over towards the door as well. Just a sliver of this zone is going to be covering their back. So they are going to have to take this fight here very soon. You can see Blast. It's really up to him to go and take these barrels. Also, shooting them as they go down is a big brain play. If they can get another one towards the opposite side of the door, they're going to be looking good. On the opposite side, major pushers, that armor is not looking good, Glitter.
No, still on a white armor is less than ideal right now. I mean, you called it zones 3 and 4, okay? That's where things start to pop off when this many teams are alive in this small of an area, and that's exactly what's happening. Dungeon Masters right now, the next squad that is in the line of someone's fire, and there's caustic gas everywhere, and Excellence has to dip.
Definitely having a dip, as you can see, just a sliver of health over here. Fortunately, they have more meds than solo Q Goats did. A couple of med kits there in the back pocket. They're going to pop those, but a very interesting situation, as you can see, a team on the ramp, another team directly above them, a team inside the building as well. Every single time you're seeing these pro players play, they play spots you never would expect teams to go and hide out. They make something out of the worst situations. Right now, Dungeon Master's trying to do so. That is a nasty thermite. That's enough for them to send it. Bubble's going to go down. Looks like Dungeon Masters has this team on the ropes.
I think that team might have been top dogs, if I'm not mistaken, and this is not the start that they wanted to have here. Going down to Dungeon Masters, but that's a huge play for Dungeon Masters, making a nice push and able to get the res. I think they should be able to get the res on this raid.
Look at that, an armor being swapped out. Lumi going in with the big brain plays. Now everyone's going to be able to re-heal throughout all of that. Nice job, Exons coming through. Nasty thermite, top dogs getting eliminated as well. This is that fight we're looking at though. International over towards the side. They're having to deal with, I believe, major pushers over towards that southwest building. And this is a fight that they absolutely have to take. They are going to have to either Wraith Portal out of here or take this one, and Noises may have the EMP. So this is going to be a super interesting skirmish to see how these teams are going to be able to take this one, as you see another zone pull over towards launch site. As predicted, it's going to be tough. All these teams again on this north-hand side glitter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 to 8 teams not in this zone.
There's a lot happening. Jumping on board with a Thermal now. Wraith barely making her way out with a sliver of health, but does end up catching the final bullet through the door as it was closing and get knocked in the process. Everything is starting to pop off right now. Uprising, shieldless, hoping to get some batteries off right now as we see some caustic. But you know what? Are they the team that actually just escaped that, or that wiped that?
I'm not quite sure, but it's not going to look good for the rotation coming through. Kick, they are loving the position. Look at how much they are owning in the middle of this zone right here. They're also going to like where it's going to continue to pull, because they're just a sliver away from being able to walk forward. Bubble's going to be used. Flatline, 2x for Orion. Again, Orion sitting inside of the top 5 in overall kills, just looking so strong with this 2x. Also ripping across the map, taking down rats with Hierarcha. That's going to be new as well. Also, the zone pulling in their favor. Oh no, though. Nice job getting out of there. Also hitting that missile barrage. I believe that is still going to be the team that wiped top dogs over towards the side. Bubble is going to go down. Hierarcha is going to continue to push this one. Look at the aggression from Kick. Why weren't they in our teams to watch? We messed up.
We really did. I mean, I'm watching this. They are surrounded by teams, but they are keeping people away from them with the amount of aggression we're seeing coming out of the squad, and they're doing so successfully. They made this push. I believe that was Dungeon Masters that was over there after Dungeon Masters has taken out Top Dog, and Kick just decides that that's their spot now. They want the loot and the positioning, and they take it with ease, jumping back on board with International now. Still holding the outside of this building, trying to figure out if they can maybe take the squad inside. Gonna have to see how that plays out, and now jumping on with New. I don't think we've been able to see them yet.
We haven't, and it's such a weird spot when you don't have your EMP in these type of fights. You see a lot of barrels being put down as cover, missile barrage being popped over towards the side. You know it's not theirs because they are not rocking a Valkyrie, but it's up to Tyler here with the portal. Pings are gonna have to go down. It's most likely going to be a portal to somewhere that has cover over the rooftop, because you do not want to go out in the open without a Gibraltar here. As Maestro Gaming, they're going to have to make a play as well. Maybe a Valkyrie redeploy again into a bubble. Tough situation. Again, a lot of that area is being owned by Kick. They have a majority of the loot down low as well.
We can see the Crypto drone Kashera trying to get some information for New as they decide to take the quarter. Tyler is very, very low, and they might be rotating into yet another squad, and they do. Kashera goes down. Tyler is the only one left alive, and it's not going to end well for New. That portal was just their doom.
It really was, especially without Gibraltar. That makes things very tough. Also, the Nox gas grenade coming in over towards the side. Noises having to finish that fight off. Not going to have time for the res. It looks like another team going to be on over towards that right-hand side. Possibly an armor swap throughout all of that to get the gold armor. Multiple teams should be down here, but if you see a lot of death boxes over there, you say, hey, is this really a good spot to hold? I mean, there's a lot of people that died in this specific area right now for Noises. It's working out.
Yeah, I actually can't believe that it worked out. That was a very, very risky decision to drop down there, but he did need to escape. Kick, I don't know if they know that that's where he ended up landing. So we'll see how long he can maybe sneak some extra points there for his squad. Kicks looking forward to see if they can catch anyone rotating along the edge of the zone and get some more damage out. They have done a phenomenal job holding any position that they've been in here in this first game so far.
Kick having themselves one heck of a game. Alliance is still in this one. Rebel International, your team to watch. Maestro Gaming is still there too, but what a job from Noises, just ratting it out. Hey, hello. I mean, hey, put me in there, but will I survive? I'm not quite sure. You know what? That could have been Noises with the drone.
Oh. Might have been. We actually see Alliance there looking down in the exact same area that Kick is in. Kick now in a little bit of a rough spot after some teams have switched their sights on over to Kick. You can see that they did need to heal, but the bubble comes in clutch there and gives them a little bit of time to get some bats off.
See, Kick knew he was there. He also knew that it was Crypto, that they were going to get the res, plus they were going to get 2 extra kill points throughout all of that. No, I don't think they knew that, but what a job from Noises, still trying to get his team back in. They had no idea that Kick was around the corner over there. 3 kills, nice job coming through from the squad, but Rebel in a tough spot. Bubble res having to come down. Now your bubble is going to be up, and the rest of the teams are going to fully focus. This one, his defensive environment's going to come down, not taking a lot of damage. Fiat taking a lot of damage as well. It's all up to Taylor, and I just don't think it's going to happen. Kick continuing to add to their kill total.
I mean, Kick is just on a tear right now. Rebels trying to hold on by the skin of their teeth. Alliance decides they want to get in on all of this action, and they're in a very, very comfortable position as far as loot goes. They are able to kind of follow up on the fight, but then also keep anybody else who is looking to peek away from them. For now, we'll have to see how the rest of this plays out, but there's only 3 squads left here, Tom.
They've been laying low-key through the entire time, but you see why we were hyping up Hackies before this one started, already with 4 kills. Look at the flatline tracking as well, running a little bit low on ammo throughout all of this, but they are A-okay by holding this high ground when there's 3 squads remaining. All you have to do is play this one patient. Alliance putting themselves in a perfect position to potentially win this one. Defensive environments won't be doing much here as there is a lot of cover. This zone's slowly starting to close, but look at the positioning, look at the kills. Alliance and Kick really having themselves a game so far. We'll see who's going to take this one.
Yeah, I mean, Alliance, like you were saying, in a phenomenal spot. Plus, they've got the Spitfire on their side. They know exactly where the rest of the squads are. We see the bubble starting to come out from below. Kick is actually going to be able to deal some good damage here towards the end. Alliance just going to watch it all go down and wait for their final moment to drop down and clean everything up. And this is looking like it's going to be Alliance's win.
They're late to the party here, and that's what you want to do. The last team standing is the last team that wins, and Alliance is going to take game number 1. Kick, they had a strong showing. The high ground really paying off, the patience paying off for Alliance, and they are going to have a big total after this scoreboard comes up.
That was a massive performance out of Alliance. I mean, like you were saying, felt like they were a little bit quiet. We saw so many other squads like Kick that were just dealing so much damage, but in the end, Alliance had the positioning, they had all the loot, and they just had to wait it out, and they played it perfectly.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Waiting for those other 2 teams to fight, but also having the presence to pepper through in between, so the 2 teams had to force themselves down below. Once the bubbles come out, it's really anybody's fight, but the team that does come last typically is going to have a huge advantage. Not only that, doing it in style, because Kick was doing so well throughout all of that. You know that their shots were on fire, so to be able to do that while not getting knocked, while barely losing any of their shields, goes to show how well Alliance is shooting as well. What a game number 1, but hey, I think our predictions are looking pretty good here. I think we're kind of on track.
Yeah, it'd be not too shabby. I think the only one that we missed was a hot start at a Kick, because that was a phenomenal game. Even if they didn't end up getting the win, they still played very, very well for themselves. But I agree. I feel good. I feel good about what we chose.
Yeah, Onset saying that he chose Kick. We'll have to get confirmation on that a little bit later. We'll send that one on over towards the admins. But I'm excited because we saw a lot of facets on over towards that game. And typically what we see, I'm looking forward to how game 2 is going to go. But the zone pulls over towards the southern side were absolutely brutal right there. And if you haven't watched competitive Apex before, yeah, it seems like, okay, what's going on? Zone number 1, zone number 2. These aren't how my games go. Usually half the teams or all the teams are dead by then. Well, this is competitive Apex at its finest right here. A lot of methodical plays, teams that will lock down certain areas that you would never expect. Maybe all 3 players are huddled up right next to a truck, and on the opposite side you have a Crypto rezzing his entire team right there, just like we saw coming through in that previous one. But what an exciting way to start off our EMEA round. We still have 5 more games underway, but one thing's for sure, we know Alliance is going to be at the top of the leaderboard. We know Kick's going to be there. We'll find out how the rest of these teams are going to fall in, and that's big for Alliance because they were that 10th team on the bubble.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not the place you want to be, right? There's not enough cushion there. You want to be in at least at least 7th, 8th, just so that if you have, you know, a bad day, you've got a little bit of room to play with, okay? Because imagine if you just fell outside of the bubble. We talked about it. The top 10 are the ones with the guaranteed qualifying spots. That is where you want to be. So Alliance making sure that they're going to start keeping themselves in a top spot by having a phenomenal performance here in the first game of the day.
Looks like we're going to go into a quick break. When we get back, we're going to have the scoreboard in game number 2. Don't go anywhere.
Monster Energy, the official energy drink of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Welcome back, everybody, to the ALGS Pro League here for the EMEA region. Game 1 is done and dusted, and with Game 2 just coming up around the corner, it's going to be myself on set and joined by the wonderful Dan Gaskin to bring you the action today. Game 1, though, it's all about Alliance, Dan.
It is all about Alliance. When you're in a final circle like that, it's almost gifted to you when you've been able to take that high ground. You can just watch what happens unfold in front of you. But we knew that Alliance needed to step up at some point. I remember way back when, in Week 1, when we saw these two groups compete, it was Alliance going out in 19th place. A complete turnaround now that they're playing again. I'm sure they'll be delighted with it.
Yeah, Alliance a little bit of a sleeping giant in the ALGS so far for the EMEA region, which is surprising to say. We know how talented they are, but it has been a kind of step-by-step process for them to refine the form. They did add Yuki, which is kind of a little bit of an asterisk. You know, you got to find a little bit of chemistry with players, all that kind of good stuff, but this was what we expect from Alliance, right? This was the dominating performance. It wasn't a scrappy one. They picked up so many KP towards zone. They were playing edge beautifully, and then that last-minute move to take that high ground and take that fight as well and win that fight to almost guarantee themselves the game.
Yeah, picking their fights very successfully. There was a few teams who showed aggression at the right times and thought maybe they could use that to just carry on through to get a victory, kick one of those teams. They were picking up plenty of KP. You can see there they got 10 kills, but it was Alliance who really stole the show. But it's Alliance and Kick who go head and shoulders above the rest of the lobby. Maestro just behind that with a total of 8 points. They just weren't able to pick up the kills despite their position they were able to hold for so long. But that's not going to be good enough if you're going to keep up with the big dogs, because you have to get those kills, you have to get those extra points.
That is a monster game from Alliance. 25 points, 13 kills, and the 12 placement points as well. Could not ask for a better start for them. And one thing I want to point out as well, Rebel getting inside that top 4 as well, some decent KP. I mentioned how Alliance were somewhat of a sleeping giant. Well, Rebel have got into a deep sleep. It's good to see them finally wake up and rejoin the action here in week number 4 of Pro League. But there's a lot to talk about. This is kind of a pivotal week, Dan, for a lot of teams. We're talking about that top 10, right? And there's a lot of teams, sort of 3 or 4 teams who are in and around that bubble. Coming into today, Alliance were holding down 10th position, and they're going to be able to, if they continue this kind of form, boost themselves up and feel a little bit more comfortable. But looking across, you've got the likes of Invictus. They're in 7th. If they don't consistently perform, then all of a sudden they could slide down. And then you've got teams like New Esports, who we just saw have a really good game. You got them in 14th. I mean, it's a very, very interesting week as far as how things are going to look when they start compared to how they're going to look when they're finished.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams who are going to be a little bit worried. They don't want to drop and have that possibility of going into the relegation playoffs, as it were. So you need to have that form. You need to find any form you've been able to pick up throughout the weeks. I guess the good news for the likes of Invictus, as you were talking about, they won week 1 when they did have these groups, when they did go up against each other. They should be able to find like a similar pattern there, but because we've had a new season, we've had new legends, the meta's slightly changed here or there, it doesn't mean it's going to be as easy as just finding that same form you had in week 1. You have to face against new challenges, and there's one of them. Alliance, a new challenge. As I said, finished 19th in week 1 in game 1. They only achieved, 33 points in the total of week 1, and they're only 8 points shy of that after 1 game. So if that doesn't show you that you can change from week 1 to week 4, then I don't know what does.
And this couple of weeks break that we've had, of course, from week 3 to where we find ourselves now, has been a great time for these teams to go away, to work on things, to, see if Ash is going to be something they can throw into their comp, to see if, the weapon meta is slightly shifted as well, if that's going to be something that they look at. All these little things roll into a preparation time, which we don't usually see in the ALGS when we're kind of in one span of competition. So for Alliance, I think it's been probably the best thing that could have happened to them from that game number 1, have a little break, been able to go and refresh and come back feeling fresh and performing like they have.
But now they need to use that momentum into the rest of these games, because it's very easy to get, a 25-point game and think, hey, we're big chilling here. We can now relax, we can play it cool, we don't have to play too aggressively, we don't have to push fights, but then that can very quickly make you a passive team. You get pushed on by all the aggressive teams, and then slowly game 2, game 3, game 4 come by, and everyone starts to catch you up. Assert your dominance now, get the points in the first 3-4 games so that you don't have to worry when it comes around to game 5 and 6. And I've seen Alliance do this. I've seen them have those big pop-off games, but then they do dip. I want a consistent Alliance, because a consistent Alliance would be arguably one of the scariest things that you could see in this region.
We've been waiting for them to find that skill ceiling, with Yuki being added to the team. Maybe today is going to be the day for that. Let's take a look at the overall standings, though. They're going to look pretty similar to what we've just seen, obviously, after just one game. But if you mix them in with some of the other teams from the other groups, we have to keep in mind as well that some groups have played more games and all of that kind of stuff. We'll bring that up in just a second. But it's going to be, like I say, a pivotal week, not only just at the top of the table, Dan, but down at the bottom as well. We've got relegation, which is threatening some of these teams now. Like I mentioned, one of those teams who just put in in a very decent performance, coming in 4th, they have been very, very quiet so far. And you look at other teams as well. You've got Young Money Guild down in 37th, Rebel, the team that I was mentioning, in 36th. Which I think if you're a betting man and you were gonna, pick a team to not be down there, they would have been one of the teams that would not been even relegation threatened, which shows the depth of talent that we always talk about in the EMEA region.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of tier 2 teams kind of rubbing their hands together at the possibility of competing in the ALGS by playing in their promotion games and the relegation games there would be for these teams, right? It is an amazing opportunity, but you don't want to be those teams in Pro League right now that drops into that relegation, because then there's that extra pressure on your shoulders to try and succeed, to not get your spot taken away by what is arguably a tier 2 team. But we've seen lots of teams that have rise through the ranks from tier 3 to tier 2 to tier 1 and now competing here in Pro League. So it's definitely possible. Definitely, if you are competing at home and you want a chance to be in the Pro League, it is there. It can happen. In North America, we saw Esports Arena. They're top of North America at the moment after competing in tier 2 tournaments for ages before they finally got their shot. So I'm really excited to see what does happen when we eventually get to those relegation playoffs. But for now, it's about those teams just ensuring they don't find themselves in that spot.
One team I want to highlight a little bit like Esports, you're saying, in NA, who have kind of gone under the radar, but now it's a case where we can't ignore them anymore, right? They've been performing that well for, so many weeks and consistently placing in those top places. Is you take that kind of explanation over to EMEA, and Dungeon Masters is one of those teams. Yeah. Some of the players on the teams we have seen previously, sort of mixed up on different teams, but this roster, currently in 4th place overall, and you're always seeing them involved in those final zones down.
Yeah, it was Dungeon Masters who came second when these two groups competed as well in week number 1. So again, that confidence will transition from week 1. They'll know how some of these teams play. They'll know how some of these teams rotate. They were able to pick up an incredible amount of kills way back when in week 1. So if they can find that same consistency, if they can find those same rotations, and maybe they get some favorable circles, there's no reason why they can't continue to assert their dominance in Pro League and impress us week by week. And who knows where they might be once we get to the end of this. We might be calling them champions if they carry on with some of the form we've seen in previous weeks.
And we do, of course, have Ash. We did see a little bit of Ash being added into the mix. The new legend for Season 11, and certainly gives something a little bit different to teams as well, with the ability to go from point A to point B so quickly. Good for endgame, but also very good for getting inside of bubbles if you have isolated fights, or being super aggressive on third parties. It is kind of an all-in portal, though. It's not a case of you can take that one back and you can get in and out. You don't have the time to really do that in comparison to Wraith. It's a straight line into the fight, and you have to be so careful on how you approach things with that portal, Dan. You have to get it right, otherwise you can end up looking a little bit silly.
We could start to see more Ashes coming into it when we get to the later games of this round, because with her passive, in fact, you can scan those death boxes, you can see where other teams are on the map. That makes her an incredible use if you're trying to look for kills, if you're trying to look for third parties, and that is a worrying thing. If you are a team who is kind of on the bubble, wants to try and achieve a decent amount of points, and you're wanting to just play safely, play for placement, and then suddenly you get scanned by an Ashe, you go into panic mode. They know exactly where you are. You've got to be just on the defensive, and you've got to ensure that you don't leave yourself too vulnerable. But there's our first scan of the circle. Then it is going to be heading down towards Lava Siphon and just on the edge of Tree and Harvester. So that's going to be a nice circle for the likes of Fenerbahce, who you can see are already down there at Tree. And Alliance, also the team who won the previous game, they don't have to move too far either.
Yeah, pretty similar zone. Not quite as south, but pretty southern still for many. Harvester still might be a point of interest as well. So we'll have to see how teams try and locate. If there's going to be teams who try and play for that third beacon and get a little bit more information on how they want to rotate POI-wise as the game does start to roll on a little bit. But one thing that you've talked about a little bit that I think we should highlight to some people at home as well who might be watching for the first time is this isn't the first time that these teams have played each other in this season. It's the second time around that these two groups have come up against each other. And you had some really interesting kind of stats on how 1 week can change standings, how teams can perform in different lobbies. Looking at Maestro.
Yeah, I was looking at Alliance earlier just because they won the game, right? And they went from 19th to 1st in match number 1. But Maestro, a team who have gone from leaps and bounds from week 1 to 2 and 3. Here in week 1, they finished in 17th position. And right, two of us are predicting that they are having the ability to win today, which is a surprise when you look at how they competed in week number 1. And it worries me a little bit. Even though we saw them place in 4th place here today in match number 1, they weren't able to pick up that KP. And I just feel like some lobbies, they will benefit you. The way people rotate, the legends that people play, the meta that develops in a group-by-group basis. And Maestro just did not look comfortable in week number 1 when these two groups went up against each other. I was delighted that they got further in the game, but because there's so many teams who like to play aggressive, who like to play edge, it didn't help Maestro out.
Well, one thing that's going to help Invictus out here is being able to trade out some kills, because it's not looking quite as comfortable as they would have wanted. Blast managing to get some good damage in as well to get a second knock onto Harold, and this is going to be an opportunity with that beautiful spray with the Havoc to win the fight. And IG holding off an early contestation here, and you can see the kill feed. It's all about Noise's big performance from him. 3 kills to his name.
Yeah, and IG had to ensure they won that fight because they are, you know, dropping at Lava Siphon. The circle's going to be moving towards them. There's going to be a lot of targets on their back. There's potentially going to be actual targets on their back if Ash scans some of those death boxes they just took down. But for now, they've won their first initial fight, and they should be comfortable to loot up and patiently try and assess the situation.
The same could be said about Redragon, and you know, you look at who we were talking about, it was Maestro. Who's gone out? It's Maestro. So we've seen 2 teams eliminated already, and it seems like this is almost a bit of a bogey lobby here for Maestro. We'll have to see if it does improve as we get towards game 3, but for now, they're just going to be sat in the observer mode and watching what's going on for the rest of the game.
So it's quicker than the previous game that we had, where we had 20 squads for a considerable amount of time, but it just seems like a few teams are upping the ante ever so slightly, trying to get more aggressive, trying to find themselves in a more comfortable position rather than being on the back foot and being on the edge and having to maybe take fights where they're not in a decent enough spot, but it has resulted in a few deaths. And as I say death, Yuki has just been knocked elsewhere in the map, so Alliance involved in a scuffle.
Yeah, much faster pace here to this game, like you mentioned, and a nice little loot drop here from the Vault for Rebel, who had a much better, probably one of their best performances so far over the first 3 weeks as we move into week 4 overall. So Rebel reminding us that they're not just here to make up the numbers, that they do have a lot of talent. They've obviously won championships here in the Apex Legends Global Series, but Alliance have managed to get Yuki back up, so not too much of a worry for them here, just playing on this high ground by this hill house building. There's no beacon there for now, so they won't be able to scan that, but they're going to be able to reset, just kind of calibrate where they want to rotate, and then start their way forward again. But a little bit of a scary moment for Alliance, but as I say, the resets now come in.
Well, as they try and assess where they want to go, let's go for a listen and then see what Alliance have to say.
There's a team here, so be careful of that.
Okay. Might shoot us.
Keep going, Shark here. Thankfully, we had a gold bag. PogChamp.
Yeah.
Yep. True. I would have got re-knocked by the ALGS though. RNG for you boys.
Yeah. Go bolt. Yoink.
Cells on me.
Shield cell here.
Go on. We can get some 3 beacon here and we can try and craft, so just get a hold awareness. Bolt is in the crafter, by the way. They swapped over.
Oh yeah, they did.
Probably why we just haven't found anything.
Yeah, Dorito here and everything.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Whoever has a sniper needs to hold. You need to go on the crane, Yuki, and hold when I craft.
We've got to still carry the could be a team in there.
I'm dropping down.
Open.
Yeah, it's close on my side, but I'm dropping down this side.
I'm taking crane now. I'm taking crane now.
People flying towards us from
Okay,
north.
just shoot them. Make presence.
Yeah, I see.
Just make presence.
Are they still coming towards us, Vibes?
Yeah.
And the only thing to really talk about from that Alliance listening down is they did find that gold bag, which obviously helped them get Yuki back up to his feet. But for now, it's a little bit of a wider rotation for them. It looks like they're going into staging here. A little bit of crafting going on for them just to upgrade those backpacks. Hey, it's bag week. Bag week is the best week in Apex. We all know that. When you can get the purple bag, it puts a smile on everybody's face.
Yeah, that's going to just make things a little bit more comfortable picking up and getting plenty of resources. This also means in endgame circles, we are more likely to see teams have, you know, bats to work with, shield cells to work with, because you can just carry more, and more importantly, grenades to work with, which means there's more damage to go down a little bit later on as well. Kick have managed to find themselves into Lava Siphon after their impressive game 1. They'll look to try and snowball away from that and turn into a team who can pick up some serious points in this week. They've spotted one team that is coming into the circle. Some big damage from Hayaka, but it's not going to be enough to get the knock.
Can't quite get that knock, like you mentioned. There's a couple of teams in the area that they've got to be careful for, but Xako is actually going to move in with the 301 and get the knock onto Steven from Rascal. So Rascal's down to 2 for now. If they'll be able to get the res or not is yet to be decided, but Yaki going to have to back off here as the gun shield gets broken. But speaking about this zone down, we see a lot of teams trying to make a late rotation in from the southern side of Lava Siphon to try and move up a lot of the time. But as you can see, it's actually pulling towards, it looks like the more northern side or the central side away from that low ground. So this is going to be a tough move for people who are making that late move.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of teams, I imagine, just trying to Valkyrie ultimate into this circle because there is high ground that you can take. You've got to time it correctly, though. You need to be probably the last team to arrive there, so you almost have to be looking to the skies and assessing who's gone where and when is the time to jump. Because if you just time it maybe one team too early, then you can find yourself being landed on, and it can end up very naughty indeed. Well, speaking of Valkyrie ults, one team who is already looking to transition their way into the circle is Uprising, but it looks like they've spotted a few teams on their way over, so they're going to have to just try and go for something a little bit more in the middle.
Yeah, Uprising, only 2 players you can see in this lobby, so they're going to be playing edge and just trying to survive. I know that sounds like a silly thing to say because everybody in this lobby is trying to survive, but it's much more difficult to do when you don't have a third person. So good luck to Uprising for now. They're going to have the gold helmet given back over to the Valkyrie player to give them the ability to jump into a skyward dive a little bit sooner than they would have previously. But at least they've got a core stick to play with, Dan. So if they can play any kind of room, they will be able to hold it down and cause a nuisance to anyone else in the lobby.
Yeah, it's never fun as a 2, but you've just got to try and do what you can at this point and see if you can pick up any placement points. Kills might come along, but for now, just placement points. That's about all you can really aim for. And they would have been happy that 18 squads are remaining. They would have seen 2 squads already drop, so they get closer and closer to that 1 placement point of finishing top 15. That's target number 1, top 15, and then you start to look towards top 10, and of course then maybe hoping for something like a top 5. But it looks like someone has already been able to spot them, and if they do get any sort of indication that it's only 2 players they're going up against, you'd imagine they will see that as very easy KP, because with 3 against 2, if you played enough arenas, you know that pretty much all the time you're going to come out with a victory.
Well, Dungeon Master's making their rotation. There is their skyward dive, and it looks like a successful one as well. They've managed to find the truck, which is unoccupied for now, so the Valkyrie passive being good for them, just to double-check that on their way through the sky. You can see the Bryn from Invictus Gaming is going to have a little sniff at this one and see if he can get some damage down and maybe make the call to his teammates. But it looks like Plushka has found himself in a position where he's got that audio cue and he knows that that player is just creeping around the edge of that wall. So Dungeon Masters are going to be safe, not just for this next zone, but the one afterwards as well. So a nice little skyward dive from them.
So when we saw Invictus in week number 1, when they were able to come out on top, I think we saw 3 or 4 Lava Siphon circles, and at first I think they didn't know how to play that. Are they going to be able to hold it? Are they going to have to move? But we'll speak a little bit more after this fight.
Alliance are in trouble here, and it's Kick once again. It's just Yuki left on his own. He's caught in a corner, and he's caught in the crossfire as well. Rascal's inside of this building, just holding them out, and I'm pretty sure that this could be the end for Alliance here, but Rascal's now in some problems. Yuki's trying to do what he can to survive. That will be Alliance eliminated, so we're down to 17. However, on the backside, it's 789 who are getting involved, and Sivan is now the last player alive for his team, and 789 saw the fight going on, saw the damage being taken, and decided it was their time to move.
Yeah, Rascals Kick, 789, even IG have an eyesight on this. They've got sight lines, they can do damage. This is what happens in Lava Siphon. Plenty of teams, they think they're safe, they try and get into a building, but there can be one team already residing in that building. You take a fight, suddenly everyone else wants to have a little peek, because it could be potentially free KP, and now we're down to 16 squads. Rascals have been eliminated, and that was just an explosion of damage, but unfortunately Alliance the first team to be wiped from it.
And that's the difference between this lobby, right? We're not seeing a huge amount of Bloodhound in a lot of these compositions. The move away from Bloodhound in EMEA has been certainly noted by a lot of people, including myself. And not having that scan when you're approaching a building, you have to work hard for that information. And if you don't get it, you miss one player in a corner. That's exactly what can happen. The chain reaction of the initial kills going down, the one team going down on a third party, Just means that players are going to fall if they don't have that awareness on lock. Kick, though, they're looking good once again here, picking up extra meds as well from that loot and looking very, very solid inside of Lava Siphon.
And what I was previously saying about Invictus dropping here at Lava Siphon is that it can be difficult as a team when the circle is consistently coming to your drop location, because it doesn't give you the kind of freedom to your natural rotations that you're used to. Often you don't find as much KP as you may do in other games. You kind of just have to sit where you drop, loot, and hope that teams come to you and KP naturally comes to you, or you get to that end circle and that's where you pick up their KP. But I think that Invictus had enough practice in that week that they slowly and surely got used to a circle coming towards them at Lava Siphon, so we'll see if they can manage to find some sort of victory with another circle close to them. There's another Valkyrie ult into the sky to try and take a little bit of high ground, or maybe a building if it's there. And it comes back to your point about Bloodhound scans. A lot of people rely on the Valkyrie scan far too much, but it doesn't give you that information of teams inside a building. They'll see some, triangles outside of buildings. They'll say, oh, okay, I think this is safe. But how many times have we seen a Valkyrie team arrive at a building and then suddenly they knock on the door and lo and behold, a team is there waiting with shotguns and whatnot, and they go down.
Speaking of going down, it was nearly solo Q Goats and Diff who went down there. It was a slither of HP as he managed to finally redirect his team into this alleyway just outside of Lava Siphon. It's a good deploy overall, but a little bit of a risky moment as Shiv now is going to have to watch his back as his teammates are now going to move up. Zippers with their All-Star is trying to get some angles just to keep Shiv alive, but with that gold armor, not going to take him too long to get back up to full HP, and now it's a case of just gatekeeping, making sure they can hold this cross as Rats are having a little look round the corner as well, and if any damage goes down, you know the Rats are going to be scarpering their way into the tunnel.
Solo Q Goats just biding their time, utilising that Bangalore smoke to block any vision. But for now, it looks like they are going to just be holding off those teams, and if no teams arrive, they need to start planning their way into the circle at some point. You can sometimes use the kind of audio cues, and you can use the bullets that are trickling around the map to then make your move, and you can slowly but silently approach teams who have already managed to find resonance in the circle. There are knocks going down here or there. A few players losing a player. Eternal are back to a full 3, and thankfully they've got a bubble to work with, but this is not a fun position to be playing. There are so many teams that could get sightlines on them if they're not careful.
Yeah, Moonbloom's going to be popping these cells, and you can see it doesn't have a lot left to work with. And it looks like they might be in a really, really rough spot here. They don't have the shield cells. They don't have what they need to survive this situation. The portal is going to be an all-or-nothing play. And look at the left-hand side of your screen, the bottom left-hand side of your screen. The portal doesn't look particularly safe either. So for now, it's about just huddling up, holding each other's hands, and maybe thinking about saying goodbye. But Eternal in a really rough spot here. Here comes an Arc Star. There goes Jellycorn. Moonbloom tries to move up, and it's looking like this could be the end. Top Dogs are moving in. 41 damage, and that's going to be the end of them. Finally, they put out their misery.
Top Dogs, T-Squared's team to watch because of the performance they had in the previous week before our break, but they're down to just 2 now. They've been knocked, so they need to be careful. A slight overextension to try and get those kills, but now they need to push up on this. They need to ensure, as a 2, they do as much damage as possible to try and win this team fight.
EMEA doing some good work with the flatline, but it's going to be Solo Q Goats who are the team who are moving up behind, and it looks like they forced them off, and now Mimi's just trying to stall because his teammate's trying to get in a position to do damage for him. Mimi in a 1v1 here gets taken out, and now be Zippers picking up that kill. 0-0, knows he's got nothing to work with, and he's trying his best to not be the 0 for his team. Top Dogs struggling a little bit here as they will finally be finished off. Odin Gamers now moving in on this tunnel, which is a real hotspot of activity, and it looks like Solo Q Goats aren't going to be let to settle.
A really important lesson there learned as a team. You can't allow yourselves to get too split to the point where a team can physically put themselves between you. At that point, it is near impossible to win a fight, especially in a 2 versus 3. But Solo Q Goats have come out pretty well from it. They can rotate through this tunnel and get into the zone when this closes. But what's waiting on the other side of that zone? I'm sure they are slightly hesitant to be pushing through here. They're going to have to utilize that Gibby bubble when they get to the other side if there's a team, and we can see, and now they see, there is going to be a team they have to fight here.
Yeah, this is looking really, really tough. Even with a little bit more space being on the map from what we saw in game number 1 with just 13 teams alive, you can see how that zone has pulled, and that's going to force fights to happen as teams are kind of stuck in this tunnel. The Arc Stars will go in here from Raz. The scan comes in as well. Sorben's taken down to just about 5 or 10 HP as the spray now comes in with the new weapon that's been added into the weapon pool, the car for season 11. It's not doing the biggest amount of damage, and maybe not the weapon you want in this particular area. 301 are a flatline and be beaming for now, but Rat's now on the back foot. Here comes the Ape in the tunnel. 72 with the Peacekeeper. Not going to be enough, but manages to get one, but Rats will fall. And Solo Q Goats managed to survive again, but again, it's just for now down. The pressure's still coming in.
They survive, but at what cost? It looks like Shiv's the last remaining player. I've seen Shiv do some pretty nutty things, but this might just be too big of an ask. A big 90 is not enough. It's Red Dragon who come in as the last remaining team to sweep up and pitch. Oh, he's not the last remaining team!
Look at this.
I lied! Major pushers are also involved. There is no point you can relax here in this lobby.
Major Pushers just trying to have a little peek over the horizon and see if there was any KP for them to pick up. Don't have any at the moment, I think, as a team, although they do have a very good building to play with. But you can see what that zone has pulled. All the teams that are inside of Lava Siphon, in that big building who have been coexisting, well, no time to coexist anymore because they're going to have to move pretty soon. There might be a few corners to be played, but Major Pushers just looking to scrape up some KP on the edge of zone here. They're going to have some tough moves, but it looks like they might just about be in underneath this bridge.
Yeah, there's a few areas that you can play now in this position that you can actually see on the map. It's those that are within that building, but it's not going to be easy to get there because there's going to be other teams already in that residence. Kick are going to be one who have to move ever so slightly. You can see they're already portaling down, which means they will be at a disadvantage being on the low ground, but at least they can be alive. There are a few rocks that they can play with, and that's what you have to do in these circles. You have to find any sort of objects that you can hide behind, that you can dance around, that you can utilize to kind of bait and switch with your teammates.
One team who's made an early move to center zone, much like Kick are trying to do, is the team we're watching right now. That's going to be Invictus Gaming. They landed here over at Lava Siphon, so they will know this zone extremely well, but they're going to have to deal with the defensive bombardment that's coming in right now, and they don't have a Gibraltar down, so this is the issue for them. Avoiding all of this explosive damage from the sky is going to be vital for them to survive, and they managed to do it. They have a few little lips they can hide behind. Now they've got to deal with an EMP, although that might have been their own just to hold off a push, but at the moment, Invictus doing so well with so little to defend from the skies.
Yeah, when you thought it was going to come towards their playground, you'd think they'd have a building to work with, but let's have a listen and see how IG, handle this one.
When we can, Blast. We want to trap it when we can, okay? 8 seconds on my next round. I'm gonna hit my drone and give you guys info, okay? Do you need nades? I'm dropping 2 nades here if you need them.
Everything down here now.
Yeah, I think there is, Bryn. We need to clear them. I want to kill those guys. There's a full team down here on this low ground, but we can't. There's nothing we can do about it, boys.
They're being picked up from over above them.
Yeah, but we can't push them, otherwise we get 30.
10 teams.
Wait, I know. We're just gonna play small.
Fuck them up. Fuck them hard up above me.
I'm coming. Crypto knocked as well. I'm nading them.
I'm just marked on things.
Nice, go back down. Safe spot. They've wasted bubble north side. They're peeking out.
Come back safe spot.
We got ulted. Safe on me.
It missed.
Okay, we're safe on me as well. Do you guys need nades? I have 2 nades, 2 bats. Okay. I'm gonna drone here and give us some info. Bryn, I think we walk along your wall. Next zone, where my drone is. We walk along this wall, yeah? And then we play under here.
I don't think that's good. The team here is gonna fuck us hard.
Okay, well then we need to fucking deal with this team here then.
Wait, we can maybe walk in from me.
And now you can see the pressure that is on an IGL in these situations, Dan. So many decisions having to be made in such a small amount of time, but Invictus are playing this so well.
Yeah, the good thing is they're still alive. 7 squads remaining, and that could be down to 6 very quickly after we've seen a member of Rebel just get knocked. And now Invictus might also pick up some KP. Bryn does get some KP, do get the wipe. They're into the top 6. Bryn can get that armor swap, and now they can push up slowly on the rest of these teams.
Odin Gamers here up on the high ground, but taking shots as well. 789 in one of the only positions where they've got some cover from the skies. Rebel now taking damage from the skies. They'll be eliminated as 789 pick up some KP. Major Pushers now trying to work their way towards circle. Noises and blasts have gone down though, and Bryn from Invictus has found a corner to play for now, but it's looking a little bit uncomfortable. Invictus eliminated. We're down to just 4.
Yeah, down in 5th position. Major Pushers, they have the kill leader right now, and it's Ranches. He's going to get back up to a full red Evo to work with. Odin are very low. Now we're down to 3. Kick also on the back foot here.
Kick do have the low ground to play with though. If they can survive for a few moments, they might be able to reset. With only 3 teams being alive here, nobody is going to want to make that initial push because they know a third party is just around the corner. And looking across here, you have to say 789 are in a really tough spot here. They might be able to bubble out and survive for a few moments, but Kick are going to do damage as they cross and they're forced out of the building. And then there's going to be lines of sight here for Major Pushers to do damage as well.
This should just play into the hands of Major Pushers. If they play this one correctly, just force them back, force them to go up against Kick.
Ubisoft Swarm will come in, and now a little side swipe is coming in, but Hyaka has gone down to the ring, so Kick have fallen down to just 2, but OJ Raid, oh wow, that's a little peak shot, and that's going to make things even more interesting here, because 789, who looked like they might have been in a little bit of a tough spot, have survived for now as Desu goes huge, and now Kick Esports try and take on 789, and from looking like it was an unplayable situation, 789 holds strong, and they will take home our second game of the day.
That's unfortunate for Major Pushers, but that's an amazing finish for 789. They probably thought that it was all but over when they pushed out and saw 2 teams just beaming them from the side, but for some reason Kick decided they didn't want to do the damage. Kick thought that the best chance of them to get second place was actually to push round and try and take down Major Pushers, which they managed to take down one player. I don't think they were rewarded with the KP of it in the end, but it doesn't matter. The fact they were able to get up into second place is huge for them. They also got 7 KP. That's some big points for all of the 3 teams.
Interesting thing to highlight as well with 789 at the top of the leaderboard. Huge amount of points for them. Great performance, like you mentioned, Kick. But we talked about Alliance, right? Great game 1. But then you mentioned it, Dan. You said sometimes it can be a little bit of an up and down roller coaster for them in the ALGS so much at the moment, I should say. And down in 18th spot from the win in game number 1 with no points to record as well. Slightly concerning for them. But IG, good performance for them. 7 kills, which certainly has helped their overall points total. Rebel once again up there as well in that final circle, Dan. Better signs for them here in week 4.
Yeah, some really promising things happening for several of these teams, but some worrying signs for other ones. Maestro was a big one, something that I highlighted. They really struggled in week 1 when these 2 groups competed against each other, and despite a good placement in match number 1 here today, they dropped down to 19th place here in match number 2. So they need to keep an eye on themselves. They need to find some way to just push through this lobby, find some kills, and also get to that end game. But it was 789, a team who have also, you know, had their struggles, they've had their ups and downs, but that's a big game that will certainly help their confidence and momentum going into the rest of this week.
And a huge game from the Gibraltarist Desu. She was doing so much work in that final zone, and they were certainly helped out by the team down on the low ground, but she got that first pick onto the team across, which really made life a lot more easy for them. So 789, like you're saying, returning to form. And it feels like at the moment, Dan, when we look at this lobby, for whatever reason, it feels like any team could really win a game. 789, you mentioned it again, up and down so far, but they now pick up the win as we look at the overall leaderboards. Kick still in first, Alliance holding on to second after that big game 1 performance.
But this is what I was worried about. Alliance, despite that amazing game 1, teams are already starting to catch up. 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, they're all in touching distance of that second place, and now Kick, they create a gap between 1 and 2. This is going to be a very scary week, and I feel like the aggression and some of the kind of carnage that we saw happen unfold in the mid-game is going to be more and more likely the further we get into games here, as people are more desperate for kills, more desperate for points, and they start to just disrespect other teams. They don't allow them to just freely get into position, freely get into the chance of getting to the last circle. So this is going to be an interesting one for me, but at the moment, Kick on top.
4 games to go, of course. Kingana, though, that's a slight concern for them at the moment. Only 3 points on the board, right down at the bottom of the table. And if I look over at where they're coming into today, overall placement-wise, they're in 13th, Dan. So they're outside of that top 10 again, which is, again, the golden staple for everyone. Wants to get to playoffs, wants to get inside of that top 10. So we're going to have to see if Kingana can rally a little bit as we head into our 3rd game. But for now, we're going to head into a break before we get back for that game number 3.
Lenovo Legion. Gaming PCs that are stylish on the outside and savage on the inside. Lenovo Legion is the official PC and monitor of the Apex Legends Global Series.
2 games in the books, 4 remain. We're hopping into game number 3 here very shortly. T-Squared and Glitter bringing you the action. Hey, we've had some pretty consistent performances, mainly from Kick and from IG. Back-to-back second places from Kick and back-to-back 5th places for IG.
Really killer right now, and I cannot believe the fact that they are that consistent already right out of the gate. Because I mean, we talked about how, you know, nobody had picked Kick. Well, they decided to double down on shutting us up because phenomenal performances coming out of them.
Yeah, Kick's been really, you know, putting a kicking to the competition here as we take a look at our leaderboard. It's them in first place, and again, they were in 11th overall. The top 10 teams are making it into the playoffs. Alliance, that's that team in 10th place. So other teams that have to look out, teams like Maestro, where are they? They are not having the performance that they were hoping for, sitting in 10th place right now. Yes, they're sitting pretty in 3rd place overall, but it's going to be very, very interesting to see who's going to really step it up in these last couple of rounds, especially with everybody fighting for that playoff spot. And again, teams are going to have to also make their way through the relegation. So teams will make their way by getting inside by, I think it's the top, we have the top 10 teams coming through, and then the 11th through the 32nd teams are going to be the teams that make it in. The bottom 8 teams are the teams that have to go through the relegation. So tight, every game really meaning so much. We've also had 2 Southern zones. That's something to point out and pay attention to, because a lot of times the zones will continue to pull over towards the Southern side, which means the teams on the North-hand side have a tough go at it.
Oh, absolutely, and we're going to see if that continues to be the case for the rest of the day. But I mean, I also want to give, I mean, you said it, I want to give a little bit of love to 789. They were not happy with what happened in game number 1, and they came back with a vengeance in game number 2. So I'm excited to see if that's something that can continue for them as well. And then, you know, we heard Onset and Gasket talking about it. Alliance, a little bit of the yo-yo effect going on right now. You know, they win the first game, and then they have struggle there in the second one. So hopefully we can see things kind of equalize a bit for them, because we talked about it going into that the first game. Alliance need those solid performances, considering that they were in that 10th spot overall.
And I love the thing that Onset brought up in terms of the Bloodhound meta not really being popular in EMEA, and it's also kind of getting out of there in North America as well. We see so many cryptos over here, but that's one of those times where a Bloodhound would be extremely useful from the Alliance side to find out how many teams are actually in the vicinity, decide if they want to go and take that fight. But one thing's for sure, 789, like you said, we're not happy after what happened in game number 1. I don't know if it's, literally or figuratively, but they got ratted on. They got taken out by the Rats, and it was a very clean team fight. These teams were kind of having a boxing match, back and forth, jab, jab, jab. All of a sudden, Haymaker comes through from Rats. Really big plays came out from them, and they were able to take them down. But hey, 789, they're going to take that dub in game number 2, and they're going to be feeling good about landing on over towards this Fragment East side. One of the best spots to go and land, if not the best spot to land. You know the bubble's going to go down. You know the early Valkyrie scan is going to come through as well. Let's find out if we have another Southern zone here.
Gonna have to see how this plays out for them. I mean, right now, at least they can focus up on just getting their loot. Everybody's good to go. You can see the edge of the ring was right there on their map, I believe. I scoped it out there just for a second. Okay, all right.
West side.
A little bit of a western pull towards kind of, the middle of the map in general. I mean, this is going to be huge for anybody that can kind of get over into the staging area early. But a lot of those teams that we talked about that were in the Trials Skyhook area that had to make crazy rotations down to Lava Siphon or Launch Site, they don't have to do that anymore.
I know these pro players love this zone because half of it is on the mountain, which means that there's going to be even less area to go and work with over here. No, you can't hang out in that water. That's why that's marked off. No, you can't hang out on top of that mountain either. You only have 15 seconds before you have to fall off that one. It's going to continue to pull over towards that respawn area, over towards the beacon on the west side, maybe over towards the hot springs, which is another popular spot where the rings are going to go and pull. A lot of teams are going to have to get over there. Otherwise, they are going to be stuck on the outside fighting in. Very similar to game number 1. Game number 2 was a little bit more fast-paced. We saw a couple early fights taking place. And then, again, Lava Siphon is one of those spots where a lot of teams can coexist. So going into zone number 5, going into zone number 6, we still had 10 squads remaining, which is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case this time around. There is the potential. I mean, there's a lot of chokes in that area. There's potential for these teams to really run into each other a lot earlier on. But to be fair, I feel like the gameplay in general also picked up from game number 1 to game number 2. Maybe that'll continue trending upwards here in game number 3, and we'll get even more aggression out of these squads. You can see just how many teams are in this area right immediately behind 7, 8, 9. Let's see if they're able to spot them out on the track, see if they get caught out for running.
Yeah, the blood started to warm up. Everyone started to get a little bit more dialed in after the first game. You know what? Whenever I had a bad game when I was competing in game number 1 or game number 2, just call those warm-up games. Get those out of the way. But there is no time here. I mean, we have 6 games. You have to really play your best. You have to always have that positive mentality, though, too. So 7, 8, 9, they bounce back. Poor game number 1, strong game number 2. Also a very strong early rotation. They left Fragment around 150 left on the clock, which means they're going to beat a lot of these teams over towards the landslide area. They're also going to try to get this Valkyrie redeploy coming through. But you can see how right now they are just emphasizing the rotation over anything, right? They could have looted up. They could have got ideal scopes, maybe even some better armor. There's really just not time for that. So it's going to be a Hot Springs area rotation and a ping going down over towards that building. Skyward Dive also getting that Valkyrie passive. Going to be big over here. And peace out, y'all. Flying right by you first class into hopefully a safe building here.
Yeah, this was an aggressive rotation. You can obviously see a lot of information being gathered by 7, 8, 9 in that rotation as well. They are able to land somewhere safe, but did take just a little bit of damage while they were in the air, making that rotation on a lot of the squads that have already kind of made their way over here themselves to start locking down some solid positioning. They don't get punished too terribly for it, but they also don't have the most ideal shield situation right now, so they are either going to want to deal some damage or see if they can find maybe some better loot as they try to secure themselves a safe spot. And spotting out a team on their rotation across the way, this might be that poke damage they're looking for.
And that's one of the beautiful things about Loba, right? Even though they didn't get that loot as fast as possible over towards the Fragment side, now they have this black market, and the shop is open, Glitter. It is time to pick up whatever you didn't have.
We love seeing a little bit of Loba shopping here. You can see just how many squads have already made their way on over to the zone. We already see some small engagements. I think the teams are trying to feel each other out right now, figure out who is where currently in the zone and see what fights are worth taking. Invictus, I mean, you mentioned it earlier, Tom, another team that's had some really solid gameplay here in the first 2 games so far. See if they're able to see. We'll see if they're going to be able to continue that here in the 3rd game, as they are underneath the bridge, and a lot of teams have spotted them out.
If you have Caustic and Crypto towards this zone, this is going to be really huge for your squad. But Noises had a phenomenal play in the previous game. If you missed game number 2, Noises rats it out right next to Kick, who placed 2nd place, got another top 5 finish for the team, but also was able to live and then get a res onto Bryn and onto Blast. Unfortunately, Kick was sitting there and camping the loot boxes, so they weren't able to do anything, but that could have been a phenomenal play and picked up a handful of points. Meanwhile, on board with our team in 2nd place, won game number 1, went out very early in game number 2. It's Alliance making the rotation over towards the thermal station choke. Like you said, a lot of chokes are going to be played over here. It's going to be difficult, but Alliance laying down some good damage.
Now on board with Fenerbahce, having to get some more shields popped here. They're right in the middle of that choke, seeing if they can maybe spot any of these squads. They see the Wraith portal go by, keeping their eyes on it, trying to see where these squads are making their way over to. We see some damage coming out of Hackis as well. And obviously, when they had their strong game in number 1, Hackis was stellar, instrumental for them in that first game.
Always been one of the best Wraiths, not just in EMEA, in all of the world, in my opinion. Hackie's laying down the portal so they can have alternate angles, but also that's just one more angle to worry about for the enemy team. Defensive bombardment's going to come down. There goes the knock. It's going to be Babes with the charge rifle. Hackie's taking a handful of damage though, but that's what the Wraith does. Goes in, creates a little bit of havoc, and then going to back out with the Volt right there with the battery in hand. It's all up to Yuki. It's all up to Babes. In this 2-on-2 situation, you can see Yuki taking out over towards the high ground. It's a Valkyrie versus Valkyrie situation, but getting back to the bubble is going to be huge, and that's what they do. Getting the knock on to Pinky. It's just one more player remaining, and Alliance with the squad wipe. However, this is what happened to Alliance previously. Multiple teams were in the vicinity. That fight may have taken too long. Glitter doesn't look like they're going to be able to survive from this one. Underrated is on their case.
Oh, that is not looking good for Alliance. There were some massive Mastiff shots coming out there for Yuki, but Underrated saw and heard the engagement, is trying to clean up if they can. We see the names popping up there in the kill feed. Alliance not going to make it past that engagement. That's super unfortunate because after that fight, they were looking really, really strong for themselves.
So important to not get knocked. That's the problem right there, is they got knocked in that 2-on-3 situation. That led to the other team pushing, and they understand who's on what team, when to go and collapse, exactly what weapons are being used, along with what utilities being used. These pro players just really on top of things, and now Jazaz gonna be sitting pretty with all of these loot boxes to go and have. They're also doing a little gatekeeping job, keeping Rebel at bay, and Rebel's like, hey, well, they have way too much loot. There's way too many armor swaps over there. Black Market's going to go down as well. I don't think that's going to be a smart fight. Otherwise, another team's going to go and third party us, just like you were saying before. Sharks with blood in the water. These pro players are just on top of things, and you just saw that with how fast the third party came onto Alliance.
Absolutely. Checking in with Eternal now. The crypto drones coming out, seeing if they can maybe scout for some information and see where the rest of the teams in the general vicinity are. And we know, we talk about it all the time. Information in this game is absolutely crucial. So being able to figure out where the rest of these teams are and check any traps in their area is going to be huge for them. Now on board with Kick, the team we were talking about who's had a phenomenal day here so far, already in more engagements. We've seen the bubbles coming out, and they are trying to make a push here for more KP.
OJ Rain actually takes a little bit of damage right there from the defensive department, trying to get into the bubble using that jetpack, but you see the shots coming through with the flat line, not connecting like they were hoping for, but with a huge advantage, it is time to push, maybe taking that angle inside the window. I love this play, watching as the other players are going to push and filter the players up the stairs, and you can see OJ Rain just waiting to collapse on that. Again, 6th place overall in terms of kills. You can see why Kick is just having themselves one heck of a day. Like we were talking about before, in 11th place, trying to make their way into the playoffs. Right now sitting in 1st place overall with 35 points from today's leaderboard. They're going to have to take this fight, and they're going to have to make it clean. But Odin is so healthy, I'm surprised they're even interested in taking this fight.
Yeah, I mean, Kick is swarming the enemy squad right now, so let's actually take a listen in and see how they want to play this fight.
They're going bottom, I think so. Bottom. Maybe we are pushing you from the back, Ushi?
No,
here.
no. I don't see. I have only 2 cells, 2 syringes.
I'm gonna take you out,
I think. Guys, let's rotate. Fuck this fight. Come this way. Wait for me, please, a bit. Yes.
Fuck, bro.
Yeah, I'll look. We cannot push up caustic. And they reset it and stuff. There is a medkit, get it, OG.
I will get it.
I have only 1 syringes.
Okay, I drop a Phoenix then, fuck it. I drop Phoenix, yeah.
Okay.
Bro, we can hold them.
We can gatekeep them, yeah. Fuck, I have losses.
They still there?
Losses.
Oh my god, that's
not
the medkit. And Pepega.
I have 2 medkits. Do you need? Keep moving, guys. We need to move. Yes. Okay, I drop you 1. Let's keep moving. Fuck them. They're gonna Valcold probably. Yeah, it's fine. We cannot lose our time here.
Hey, thanks.
They reset.
Yeah,
Valcolding.
They probably go to our side, like to choke.
Okay.
Potty mouse, watch your language, Glitter. I mean, I just gotta say, cover your ears, young one. Sorry. You know, but what did they say? They said, leave these guys. That's what I heard.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, we were watching a lot of aggression coming out of them. They wanted that push, and then they realized that they just maybe didn't have the meds to continue sitting inside of the zone like that, so that they were continuously taking the damage. They considered gatekeeping them. We did also hear them talking about that, and in the end, they decide to rotate away. But I mean, they've got what they had a gold rampage. I mean, they had the positioning, they had the thermite that was taking down the enemy squad, and they decided in the end to back off. But still, this is the same level of aggression and very, very confident gameplay that we've seen all day out of Kick.
Yeah, Odin was shaking in their boots right there. I mean, once you see the rampage coming through your door, you have to be a little bit nervous, but the caustic was proven very useful. Meanwhile, Uprising, they tried to get a little bit tricky over here. It doesn't seem to be working out as they lost the caustic of their own. It looks like the res is going to be able to come through. So many barrels over towards there. It would be just psychotic to go and push this one, but you can see the zone pulling away from Hot Springs. So that's going to be interesting to see how the teams that rotated, maybe like 7, 8, 9, will continue to gatekeep the teams that expected this to go Hot Springs, and it's pulling over towards the thermal station choke. That is where Alliance lands. That fight was so big for Alliance. Unfortunately, that third party came through, and the rest of the teams that took that spot are loving the situation now.
Yeah, and the rotation into the zone right now is going to start to get very, very dangerous. Teams are going to have to decide if they want to make that push out and go for the safer wide end of the rotate, maybe go around the eastern edge of it and take the longer route to be a little bit safer, or if they want to try to make the push through the choke. And then if you're going to go through the choke, do you want to be the first team that tries to do it? Do you want to be the last team that tries to do it? They have to make that call and pray that it works out in their favor, because once they make their way through, we saw on the map there weren't a lot of teams on that thermal side. There were only 2, I think.
The key about this is the team that's holding the choke has to deal with all those teams on the north-hand side, and there's going to be one team that makes it out from the south-hand side, but Rascal's taking a ton of damage. Shiv coming through diff there as well with the Arc Star. We're talking about being last towards the edge. That is what we talk about right there. Solo Q-Goats gets in, hits some heals, but now they have to deal with even more players from behind. Hello, diff. Need to get with your squad. Lumi is just going to light them up from across the map, and that is all she wrote, most likely, for Shiv as well. We've seen him pull off some miraculous plays. This would be up there if he can do it.
There's just too much chaos going on for Shiv to really pull that one out, but they had a really, really solid fight before that. Dungeon Master's now trying to go in and clean up the same exact fight. I mean, this is what we're talking about, the third party, central, fourth party, fifth party, any point that these teams can get, they're going to take. We see Exons there at the end also going down. I mean, this was what we were hoping for, and I think we just lost at least 3 teams right there.
I think we just lost a lot more than that, because look at how many boxes are sitting in there. It is just a graveyard of boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4 teams just sitting on top of there. 7, 8, 9. Fresh off their game number 2 win, looking for more blood. Odin Gamers, tough fight. Great PK shots from Shades, and wow, he gets it done.
With a sliver of health as well. I mean, Odin Gamers, they were able to escape the confrontation with Kick, and now are actually taking some serious advantage of that. They're able to get some KP, tons of loot now at their disposal as well, and I think they have, at least in front of them, relatively cleared out to try and start making a rotation.
Mimu does have the banner, I believe, so if they want to go and hit the res, it is completely possible. We saw Noises do that in the previous game from Team IG. Maestro locking down the high ground. Again, a lot of teams anticipating this was to pull over towards these buildings. Instead, it pulls directly behind over towards the thermal station choke, kind of where that Apex banner is. We've seen a lot of endings over towards that area, but it may even go more towards that thermal station side, which means if you don't have a Valkyrie, you are going to be in an absolutely tough spot. Another tough spot is going to be Uprising, looking from the ground all the way over towards the top of that rock. Great shots there, but still taking a decent amount of damage as well. Are we going to see a crazy Kobe Nox gas grenade from Crescent? It could be possible. The portal over towards the edge of the zone. We've seen this so many times where teams just barely making it in.
I mean, they're trying to decide what they want to do here. Uprising and Maestro. Do they take the fight? Do they try to escape and live to see another day? I mean, if they start that rotation, though, there's going to be people in the way, so though they need to start doing something. Whether, you know, that's the Nox guy. Oh, okay. Well, and we're jumping on board as 789 is continuing their reign of terror.
789 not stopping with Top Dogs as a team of 2, trying to put in some serious work. EMP is going to be popped. Mimu is going to go down 0-0, trying to get into the phase, into the void, figuring out where these players are going to be approaching the situation. Running pretty low on heals as well. Maybe can be able to get that banner, maybe not, as 789 now trying to survive throughout all this. Look at the shots coming in from Believer. It's not going to be enough, though. All that work just to go out in 10th place. A lot of kills on the board, though.
Yeah, that KP is going to be massive for them. Still, it's still nice to see consistent gameplay, though. You know, sometimes just get a little bit unlucky here. Eternal, though, looking very, very strong for themselves. Lots of damage, decent KP on the board as well for Eternal. This is a great spot for them. Maestro, though, has still not moved off the rock, and as I see that, we see Rugby drop down, possibly starting this fight with Uprising.
Yeah, Maestro is super interested. Also, having the Digi threat throughout all this is going to be big. The problem is will they get collapsed on? We saw from the player outlines, there was another team over towards the blue truck. They have seemed to dip out, and this does pull away from the choke. So Maestro, they have to be wary here. It's going to be a Valkyrie redeploy coming through. Skyward dive, most likely, but the team down below, will they kind of grief? Will they look up? Will Crescent decide that he wants to start getting a little bit interested with that Nox gas grenade? Really comes down to what Shadow wants to do here with the portal.
I mean, they don't have a whole lot of time to decide, but as we see that, we see the Valkyrie rotate coming out which means Maestro should be safe. And as Uprising saw them go, instead of going for that damage, they just said, you know, we have to make the rotation as well. The ring is already closing. We got to get somewhere safe. So now we're jumping on board with Rebel, who's been doing well for themselves here today as well. And they're starting to pick a fight.
Big 84 shot there from Pia. You can see 0-0. Valiant effort there. Top dogs are going to be going out in 8th place as Crescent. They end up getting knocked and finished over there. 789. Is Believer still in this one? I thought 789 was eliminated. Okay, so they had a knock from a long time ago that ends up getting cleaned up, but they will not get the point for that one. Meanwhile, underrated. They're going to lose out on Dazo Jazaz, trying to stay alive, running over towards the zone. It is so difficult. Again, all those teams were locking down that choke, anticipating the zone to end over there. It's more or less going to go over towards these buildings and directly where Maestro is holding. So Maestro loving this position. Look at how they have their entire back clear glitter, all the action directly in front of them, plus barrels in the middle of the zone. Maestro loving this.
Yeah, and we heard Onset and Dan talking about it. You know, they were looking for a little bit more aggression out of Maestro because they had solid placement in that first game, but not enough KP. It looks like Maestro's trying to give them that aggression now as they start making the push, seeing if they can pick up a few more kills, and they do. Also nailing down some of that positioning, so this is going to be huge for Maestro.
The Rats, they're still involved. Rebel, you can see it in the teams remaining on the right-hand side. This is so big for Maestro Gaming. 3rd place in the overall standing with 21 points. They were in 10th place after the first 2 games, really stepping it up here with the big zone prediction and also just being poised to win this game. With all full squads remaining, plus the positioning, it would be crazy if they were to take this fight early. They have to force out the rest of the teams to fight each other. It's going to be up to Sonya here with the Kraber Mastiff combo. That is an unforgiving combo.
Oh, it's scary. If they're able to get some angles here, maybe land a couple Kraber shots, then really start to give themselves the advantage. But you can see that, like you're saying, they're in a safe place right now. They're exactly where they want to be, and the other teams are going to have to make the push towards them right now. So Maestro can get some height. They can get some solid angles on these squads as they have to make their way into the safe zone and potentially take this one home.
In game number 2, around this time, we had around 9 or 10 squads remaining. This game, we have 3. This has been extremely fast-paced, just brutal in terms of the unpredictability of this zone. But the team that is on top right now, it's definitely Maestro. You see how they're split up, but they get right back on over towards each other. Now taking the high ground again, trying to force the action. It's going to be a defensive bombardment on the team over towards the trailer. That team is getting focused big time, and that is going to be Rebel getting bounced around like a ping pong ball.
Yeah, and this is a perfect opportunity for Rats to try and maybe join in on that damage or try and sneak up behind Maestro and see if they can catch them off guard. Rats looks like they're trying to do that from the right side of Rugby over here, but Rugby is demolishing people with this rampage right now.
Yeah, my rampage don't look like that. That's definitely why I'm casting right now, is Rugby just getting aggressive and confident, flying down. Meanwhile, Sonya gonna have to hit a shot here if they want to help out Rugby. Somehow Rugby is not taking any damage, even though just flying in like an absolute madman over here. This high ground is so big to play with. There goes the knock. It's gonna be onto Mania, and now a 2 versus 3 situation. Rugby's gonna heal up. Nox gas grenade is in hand. It's just a matter of time, but a big flame coming through. The alternator hits though, and the flatline turn. 180, Maestro Gaming ending that one in style.
That was a solid game out of Maestro. They made all the right conservative choices when they needed to make them, but then when they needed to push and they needed to be aggressive, they also did just that. They wanted to make us eat our words when it came to them playing a little bit too passively, and they get a very, very well-deserved win.
Just the confidence coming through, the way that they were able to split. Gibraltar going on over towards the side, making their way back on over towards the team, as well as we take a look at the leaderboard to find out exactly how many points were put on the board. 9 kills, 12 from that first place in the placement points, 21 overall. But hey, we got to give credit to Rats today. I mean, Rats came through basically at the very tail end of our leaderboard. Now they've been having some pretty solid fights. They're also having a solid placement here in game number 2. Big shout out to them trying to get out of that relegation area and trying to qualify for the next split of the Pro League.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking that when we were watching the game that we got to give Rats a little bit of love. They've managed to, I mean, they had decent KP in that first game. They've been present every single game so far. Something to keep our eyes on. But Rebel as well, having another solid performance after they were able to take home 4th place in that first match. So Rebel is making sure they're getting some points on the board for themselves as well. All of these teams trying to make sure they're getting themselves into that top 10 spot if they can.
you could see just how well you shoot. If you're 7-8-9, for example, and you still won game number 2, going into game number 3, not missing any shots really, still getting outside of the top 10 in 10th place. Just such a big game overall from Sonya. You can see 2,000 damage overall. The way, again, that they were each holding their own was so impressive. Ron sitting there with the Nox gas grenade, turning around and hitting the shots. Rugby flying in with that jetpack, taking on over towards the high ground. The Rampage did it for me, though. I mean, I'm inspired.
Yes.
I'm inspired. I'm going to use the Rampage after we're done casting.
That was impressive Rampage play, but honestly, that push up from Rugby at the end, the aggressive Valkyrie play, is what really did it for me at the end, because Rats got scared. They backed off as soon as Valk pushed up. They didn't know what to do, and even though they tried to sneak up behind the players as they were spread out, in the end, you know, it goes the way of Maestro.
Someone that I know that loves chaotic gameplay, that's definitely Kate. She's also someone that loves the caustic main, so welcome back, Kate.
Oh, you are absolutely right. That Stinky Legend has my heart for sure. Well, let's talk about those legends, because we saw a lot of team comps that really shook things up, I think, except for, here's what I'm going to ask you there, Tom. We had some shakeups, right? We had some people, we had a lot more cryptos. We saw some Bloodhound meta, which of course you guys had mentioned, as well as Onset and Gaskin. But I want to real quick mention that our first 3 games go to, the first one was Wraith, Gibby, Valk with Alliance. Loba made an appearance when 7-8-9 took match number 2. Maestro, of course, coming back to that Wraith Caustic Gibby. Let's start with Tom. Team comp wise, what are we thinking? Should all of these teams go back to that Wraith Gibby Valk comp? It seems to be working pretty well.
I really think that if you're going to play right now, you have to have Valkyrie and Gibraltar just as the core, because the redeploy is so huge. Not only that, the little small plays that you can make with Valkyrie's jetpack to go and take the high ground, it reminds me a lot of what Pathfinder would do, but just a lot more easy to go and use, because you don't have that long cooldown in terms of trying to take over that high ground area. And you can see from all of these clips how important it is to lock that down. Shooting down is so much easier than going and shooting up. Not only that, you typically have a lot more ground to go and back away from, so you can go and heal.
Yeah, I mean, not only... I was going to say not only that, but I mean, it's also the information factor, right? Valk, we've seen it time and time again in these games where Valk's able to get a spot on high for the squad and then relay the information back to the team, because there have been the first 2 games were very end game heavy with how many squads we still had alive, and all of that information becomes paramount when we're in these situations.
100%. Now let's continue on with that team comp question as we take a look at these highlights here coming into game and match number 3. We saw match number 1, Rats fielded an Ash. We've seen some other teams in different tournaments coming up to this one fielding that new legend. Tom, was it a surprise to you that we don't see more of Ash? And if not, why?
I think the reason why, yes, to answer the first question, the second I'm surprised that we haven't seen so much Ash, but the reason that is, and the justification for that, is because it's really not time to bust that out yet because of the amount of preparation that you need here. Remember, everyone's been playing Wraith since Season 0, basically, going through when Apex first came out, so you know the way that Wraith moves. Yes, there's been some minor changes here and there, but if you're going to go and play at the highest level, you need a lot of experience underneath your belt with a certain legend. I don't think players are comfortable yet like they are in Valkyrie with Ash.
I mean, my goodness, you're absolutely right, Glitter. We saw a lot of rotations, we'll say. You're absolutely right, Tom. I mean, it seems at this point that the team comp, Glitter, is fairly straightforward if you want to be in those final late game circles.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't hate it, because we saw how important, just going back to this last match, we saw how important that Valkyrie was for that rotation. I mean, you saw Maestro and Uprising just kind of stalemating each other on that rock. Neither team wanted to make the first move, and as the clock was ticking down, it became, they had to make that decision. And it was very easy for Maestro to do with the use of that Valkyrie. It's probably the one rotation that essentially led to the win in the end because of where it got them location-wise safely for that final choice. So I mean, I'm happy with where the meta is right now for the team comp.
And I will say I'm happy when they start using Valk, that ultimate. Admittedly, it's a little bit of a fun entertainment moment because you never know what could happen. Maybe they'll get shot out of the sky. Maybe they'll find themselves near a bunch of death box buffets. But either way, it's fun to watch and certainly an incredible thing to witness. Some of these pro players do what they do best. Tom, let's take a look at these overall leaderboards here as we are in the thick of it, halfway through today's competition for EMEA.
Yeah, 3 different games and 3 different winners, which is definitely the theme that we've had in the Pro League for this split overall. It's been pretty interesting to watch how teams have just been performing when they really need to. Alliance, they win game number 1, ends up not really going in their favor for the rest of the games. But one thing's for sure is, again, look at how this leaderboard's playing out and realize that the teams on the bottom are not going to give up quite yet. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see 6 different winners over here. So I'm looking at teams like Kingarna. I'm looking at DM, who's sitting inside of the top 10 right now in 4th place. I think Solo Q Coats is going to bounce back, and definitely watch out for Top Dogs.
Yeah, and Glitter, I gotta say, this seems like one of those moments where you don't sleep on anybody because you can find yourself at the bottom part of that leaderboard real fast.
100%, and I think, you know, that's what makes this whole thing so exciting. I mean, even down at the bottom, like, I'm looking at New for a solid game. I do agree with the Top Dogs maybe being able to pull something out. At this point, it's all going to boil down to the consistency, and we've talked about it before, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to get wins every single time. You just need to make sure you're getting KP on the board. You need to make sure you're getting decent placement points, because that's what's chipping away at the overall leaderboard if these teams are trying to get into a top 10 spot.
100%. And I think one of those teams that a lot of people, Tom, were yourselves included, were kind of surprised doing what they do, and not to beat a dead horse here, but Alliance, the yo-yo is real.
Yeah, they have to be smart about the fights that they're taking, because when you look at that positioning there in game number 3, that was the end game spot. Exactly where they died is where the zone basically pulled over towards, and they're the team that lands over there. So they kind of had home court advantage, and you hope to see for a team that's sitting in 10th place that they go and capitalize on that they take that 2 versus 3, and they don't have any knocks on their team, that they continue to save their utility instead of using that to press forward. So right there, they're probably hoping that they maybe made 1 or 2 different decisions, and that 1 or 2 different decisions ends up resulting in a lot of points going forward. But after that big game number 1, they still had a little bit of cushion to work with. That cushion's kind of gone now with the rest of the team stepping it up.
Well, speaking of the rest of the teams, one of the things that we have been showcasing throughout this tournament, and certainly will continue to, is all about our Challenger circuit. Why? Because the bottom 8 teams, well, they're going to go up against them. Registration for that is now open for Challenger circuit number 4, and it closes December 1st, 12 p.m. Pacific. Put that in your calendars, December 1st, 12 p.m. Pacific. Now, Challenger circuit number 4 is actually going to take place December 4th through the 6th. See if you have what it takes to compete against the best Apex teams in the world. It could be you we are talking about on this very program. To register, go to battlefy.com/ALGS. That's battlefy.com/ALGS. And I gotta guess, Glitter, if I am in the Pro League, if I'm even close to that bottom 8, I have got to feel the challengers breathing down my neck here in this day number 7 of our entire Pro League group stage.
1,000,000%, okay? Because it's not just the pressure of trying to maintain your positioning here in what we're doing, but knowing that if you potentially are going to be relegated and then deal with the challengers. I mean, it's a lot to have to worry about, while also trying to have some solid games here today.
No pressure at all. Well, hey, keep up with all of our action and the drama here in the ALGS by following us on all of our social handles. And that means we're going to this graphic at Play Apex Esports. They're doing a great job there on Twitter, at Play Apex Esports on the YouTube, and of course, twitch.tv/PlayApex. It's everywhere you want to be, and it's all where we are. Don't worry, it's going to be a full day of Apex here today as well as Sunday. So I want to go ahead and follow those social handles. But in the meantime, we're going to get back to gameplay in just mere moments right after this.
PGL is the official broadcast partner of the Apex Legends Global Series NA and EMEA Pro League.
Welcome back once again, everybody, to the Apex Legends Global Series Pro League. We're here in EMEA, and 3 games have already gone, Dan Gaskin, and we've had 3 different winners to date. It's been a little bit unpredictable, to say the least, and the last 2 games have certainly had some pace about them.
EMEA, unpredictable? Never! We're the most predictable region in the world. We're so secure. Yeah, this has been all over the shop. We had one game where, you know, there was 20 squads left with, like, in Zone 3, and then we lost, like, 5 squads in the first zone, and then that circle was just ridiculous. I mean, we lost so many squads early on. It just seems like people are starting to get a little bit more nervy now as we get to the business end of Pro League, and people start to think about relegation, people start to think about playoffs and whatnot. So now we're getting people being a little bit more aggressive at times, or overextending ever so slightly to try and get those kills. But what we will say, I asked questions about Maestro. I said that they were slacking a little bit in the first 2 games. Well, what a way to respond. They pushed themselves all the way up to 2nd place, taking 8 spots away from everyone else.
And even though Alliance looked pretty in 3rd place, 28 points, I think it was 25 of those, came from game number 1, where they got that win on the board. So it's been a little bit of a slippery slope, or more than slippery, to be honest. It's been a bit of an avalanche downhill in the last 2 games. 7-8-9, that win in the previous game, game number 2, puts them up at the leaderboards as well. But I'm looking across some of the leaderboards at the moment. Kangana, not been good for them, Dan, and now we're halfway through the games that we've got today in week number 4. They've got to start to improve, and they have to do it now.
Yeah, they need to take a page out of the book of Maestro, because they were able to go from, what, like 19th place to then 1st place in one single game. So what was the magic recipe? What did they do differently? Was it just the fact we had a slightly different circle? Did they change up their rotation? Were they more aggressive? Because it does seem like in these lobbies, you are rewarded for a bit of aggression, but it's calculated aggression. You need to time your pushes correctly to a point where you can win your fight quick enough that you can heal up, you can shield swap, and you can put yourself in a spot to defend the 3rd or potentially even 4th party, because teams are swarming on you as soon as they hear those fights engage.
Well, the whistle has blown for the second half of action of today. 3 games gone, 3 games to go as we head into game number 4. And it's only right that we start off game number 4 with the winners of game 3. That's Maestro Gaming. And even though it was a very kind of devastating way that they won that last game, you have to say a Kraber falling into their hands, Dan, certainly helped them on their way to that victory.
Yeah, it's always nice when you manage to get a Kraber, but their positioning is what impressed me. It was the ability Rugby had to, you know, consistently find himself on the high ground and just be a nuisance to the other 2 teams. But it's Sanya who is the standout player on Maestro for me. Actually, prior to today, had the most kills in EMEA in Pro League with 39, and would, of course, added to that total. But it's the damage from Rugby. But that's actually... Wait. Oh, have we changed games, or was it the same game we casted just about 30 minutes ago?
I think, if I remember correctly, Alliance win this game.
Yes.
I'm not going to, there's no spoilers, but obviously this circle, very, very similar to what we saw, not only in game 1, but pretty similar to game 2. And once again, the north side of World's Edge being neglected ever so slightly here by the RNG of where that circle is going to pull. But as you can see on your screens, Lava Siphon, we're going to be seeing a little bit more of that. We've got to know that very well so far, but also Launch Site going to be heavily involved once more. So for Maestro, who have had some pretty good placings in all 3 games and landing over here at Stagen, smiles on faces, Dan. Big smiles, because they know exactly where they've got to get to.
Yeah, so the first game, Maestro, they were able to get into that final circle, and they were able to get a good placement in 4th, but they weren't able to find the KP. So I think they'll look at that. They'll look at the previous game they've just had success in, and they'll try and find a combination of the 2 now. They will perhaps look to rotate early because, you know, it's going to be so close to them anyway at this point, but probably keep their ears peeled a little bit. Can you peel your ears? Doesn't matter. You've got to just check for those teams that are going to be on the edge of the circle, that are potentially going to be taking damage, because there is more fights that are going to be happening the further we get into these games. Third-party possibilities will be there. Free KP at times if you can just correctly time your push.
I think it's eyes peeled, isn't it?
Yeah, I know.
Eyes peeled.
Well, I realised that, but that's why I said
ears.
You can't really peel your ears.
But, you know, you can't really peel your eyes either. We'll leave that one. We'll leave that one for now. But we are going to be watching Solo Q Goats once again on their beautiful little loot path over here at Trials. And something to note for them as well, you know, you're destroying those Prowlers now with the update. You get a little bit of a damage contribution towards Evo Shield. So not only do you get the extra loot, you also leave with a little bit sort of boosted Evo Shields as well, unless you're Diff, of course, who might have been looting a slightly different POI and didn't get quite the opportunity to do the damage that you would have wanted to onto those Prowlers. But for now, Solo Q Goats, once again, going to be leaving very, very comfortably with good loot. But it's always a drawback I find with Trials. Yes, you get good loot, but think about where the zones have been. And historically, this season in ALGS. We've always been going to the south, it seems 80-90% of the time. So to land right up in that top left corner of the map has got to hurt them every single time they see a circle pop up.
But the solo queue goats do like to take their fights, they do like their engagements, and it does mean it offers plenty fights indeed as they traverse across the map. Red Dragon have posted up in launch site. This is an area where the circle could end, so they are just making sure that they put themselves in the best possible spot, they think, as everyone will find those buildings that, you know, do finish right closest to that last circle. Rebel were another team who found success in the opening 2 games when the circle was somewhat similar, so they'll be looking to try and recreate that as well. But you know, Alliance, after having like an up and down sort of day already, starting off really hot, but then dropping the next 2, they need to find that same success they did in game number 1.
Well, Fenerbahce just trying to hold off the push here. You can see a very aggressive portal underneath them, and I wonder if that team's just going to try and play the side of this building over here at launch site. It's going to be up to Fenerbahce to try and command this space as much as they physically can, and it does look like that is going to be the case here. Major pushers making that move just out of the lines of sight that were available to Fenerbahce. And you can see in the background, once again, Invictus making a quick rotation inside of launch site as well. So Redragon kind of holding down the low ground as we see our first kills of the game going down, and New Esports once again picking up some early KP.
And they're going to be playing Ash. I think this is going to be happening a little bit more as we get into the next few games, as those teams who are lower down in the leaderboard and they want those kills, they're going to be chasing people across the map after you scan. And even though those are going to be the first death boxes now actually on the map, it will offer other teams who are using the Legend to scan those a little bit later on if they come across them, and then they would get the information of where New Esports were. So even though New Esports got the first kills, they could potentially be a target if they run away from these death boxes and leave them to be scanned.
So New Esports with a little confidence booster here in game number 4. It's always a good feeling when you have that first fight, you manage to isolate, and more importantly, you manage to get the kills quickly so that no third parties, even though, you know, not too many third parties are going to be around at this point in the match, just to make sure it's quick. It gives the confidence when you get into those fights later in the game, Dan. If you can finish one early, in early game, when you have to finish fights and it becomes more, you know, desirable to do so to avoid the third parties later on, it just makes you feel a little bit better about yourself and more like you're going to have success towards the end of the game.
Yeah, just having the KP early, it just means you're not going to be as anxious as the closer you get to endgame. You're not going to be thinking, oh, well, you know, we've got placements, we haven't picked up KP here, so are we going to be picking up enough points? Is the placements going to be enough? If you've already got some decent KP, then you're going to be... You'll say, all right, well, even if we win the game now, we probably pick up 2 or 3 more just from the natural end game. So it just allows you to relax ever so slightly more. Rascals are going to be somewhat close by to the death boxes we just saw previously, but they're going to be moving closer towards the circle as elsewhere, Fenerbahce, you know, still in this standoff battle, this poke war that's occurring towards launch site, but no one's come out on top. Instead, they've just been depleting one another's resources, and you really have to, at some point, decide when is enough enough? Do you eventually just push and say, we can't afford to be wasting so many resources here on this fight?
Just trying to level out those Evo shields at the moment. You can see that Pinky Finky only needs 29 damage. I think Draconian was under 50 as well. So one more shot and they'll be up to purple, blue, blue, which is a much healthier position to find yourself in. Rascals, though, they're trying to push up on this team on the choke, overlooking Geyser at the moment. The EMP goes off, and that will force the team down from height. So it looks like they've managed to do enough damage to force this team into the Geyser itself, who are now going to be leaving for now. No KP secured for them, but at least showing some presence. And once again, getting those Evo shields leveled up, if you're leaving with white, is kind of first call of action for every team.
Well, as we've seen this circle play out a couple of times, teams are transitioning as early as possible. They know where this zone's going to be. They know how it plays out in terms of who's rotating where, but Rascals seem to be confident holding this spot, and there is another team approaching them here. Big damage coming out from the
flash damage. Flash damage coming in, but not able to get that knock, but it looks like Post Kill's in the feed as well, but he's picking one up on Shades. As now Rascals try and move down to this low ground. As the zone closes, there's going to be a Rogue Gibraltar around this corner. He'll get the crack here out for draft, and he pulls out the 301 to finish off business. That's going to be 2 knock now, and I think there's only 1 or 2 players alive still in the zone, so Rascals doing a really good job of gatekeeping here. But like we mentioned, the longer this goes on, the more difficult it might be as we go into the first fight we've seen inside of launch site, and it is Fenerbahce Esports versus Major Pushers. Cleve really struggling at the moment. It all comes down to Fitzu here, and he will be taken out. So FB with a big hold inside the building. But now they've got to be careful. Pinky Finky needs to get back to his feet. With teams rotating into this hot zone, they're going to have to be on their P's and Q's and make sure they can heal and get healthy, and it looks like they'll be able to do so.
It was a fight that was inevitable, but all it took was another team just showing a little bit of presence and forcing major pushes inside, but Pinky has to be careful, otherwise his Finky might be lost, because otherwise, you know, Fenerbahce, they're going to be in trouble. Could be a 2 versus 3, but looks like Pinky Finky is going to be okay for now, but there's a couple of teams just having a sniff at this one. They've heard the damage, they've seen the knocks, and there is a Wraith portal outside as well, so Fenerbahce have to just hold.
Looking pretty healthy for now, though. Pinky Finky, I was worried, just kind of got a little bit tunnel visioned on that drone and wandered out from behind cover and took quite a lot of damage. And the drone being a distraction maybe isn't what it was there for, but it almost did the job. But Fenerbahce for now seem to have held off that third-party opportunity. They will be able to loot up now and get healthy once again. So a good hold from Fenerbahce, and they will be safe for now. They don't have to do too much at the moment. They've got those KP, like you mentioned, which is just going to settle things down a little bit as far as points is concerned, and they have some extra armors. So that's going to give you an indication of how they want to play. This is what they're going to be calling home for quite some time, and understandably so. Look, as we see that beacon scan, they're going to be safe for not just the next zone, but the one after as well.
It's that team that's in the north side of launch site, that building that is furthest north. They're going to be the most comfortable, but also going to be in a position where other teams will want to take that position off them. So they need to be careful, and they need to be watching all angles and doing enough damage just to keep people at bay. Rascals I've been very impressed with. They've clearly seen how these kind of circles play. They know that people are going to be transitioning from the north east side of the map, and they've taken full advantage of that by just gatekeeping and being a real nuisance to all those teams trying to push their way through the Geyser tunnel.
I love the way you say Rascals, by the way. Very West Country.
Rascals.
Rascals. A couple of extra A's in there, but Rascals at the moment, they're a little bit split, and Paradise is taking some damage. The Gibraltar will have to use the defensive bombardment. As you can see in the feed as well, it looks like Underrated are involved with the fight with Kick and got the first knock, but for now, Rascals, they've got to do what they can to kind of stabilize here. Shots coming in, Paradise will fall. They do get the trade though, but Sivens now left on his own, has to get the bubble down, and that might well allow the Reds to come in, as there's going to be a player flying in his bubble, and that will be him eliminated. And there is New Esports. Hello, everybody. Tyler went down, but they win the fight, and they will be safe for now.
That is prime example of biting off more than you can chew there for Rascals, because they were, you know, they were waiting, they were watching,
better.
They were doing damage, but they just maybe overstayed their welcome. Could have transitioned closer to zone. They could have got away from all that, but they opened themselves up to a third or fourth party for a team to eventually do the damage, and it was New Esports who got aggressive in the end.
Well, Uprising, they are caught in this tunnel at the moment, and Sorbet's going to go down as Wawa manages to pick up the first knock. Pretty sure that's the exact pronunciation of it. I will not be corrected, but Rats now in some real trouble here as the Bloodhound ult is going to be popped, but they are eliminated. Uprising will win the fight, and they will control the tunnel for now. You can see that Kick Esports also trying to move up on things, so maybe they don't have quite as much control as I originally thought.
I think you missed the eyes at the end of Wawa, which would be why?
Silent eyes.
Silent eyes.
As I say, I will not be corrected.
Sorry, I didn't mean to correct you, just questioned you so slightly. Kick are going to be a real nuisance holding down this vault tunnel, but they're taking damage as well. They're only a 2, and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to get this banner.
Yeah, they're kind of sandwiched right now. You can see there's a team up on the high ground towards Dome, and there's a team holding them out, so they're going to have to maybe get hyper-aggressive or look to just focus on one player, get a laser to make it a 2v2, but they're in a really tough spot here, and with Zone 2 closing, maybe they have an option to rotate through Zone, but I don't know if they'll have the meds to survive it, so inventory going to be important for this next decision to be made, but for now, you can see they're just trying to beam one player, maybe get an opening, and then move from there.
Remember, Kick are leaders at the moment in this lobby, so it would be huge for those in the chasing back if Kick were to be taken out. Maestro, I'm sure, would be delighted to see them on the kill feed, but for now, Kick still just about surviving as a 2, watching all those angles to ensure they're not being pushed up on, because they can just hold off and they can survive in this vault tunnel in the next circle and maybe gain a few positions and gain a placement point as well for getting into the top 15. New Esports, after their kills earlier, they're in trouble now.
Yeah, Tyler's gone down as well. That's the Gibraltar, so a reset is so much more difficult, which is why you're seeing Kishira try and get aggressive. Postkill now left on his own, so Kick Esports, it's not going their way at the moment. Sorry, excuse me, New Esports, it's not going their way at the moment. Solo Q Goats are looking to have a little sniff at this as well, as they're playing down on that low ground. Defensive bombardment will go down from Zipper to be used in a more offensive capacity, and now New Esports will have those kills confirmed. Solo Q Goats add to their tally.
Yeah, our Solo Q Goats aware that Vic is the last remaining player just below them. I don't think they've spotted him, but they may eventually just catch wind. There's 7, 8, 9 in a spot of bother. There's Desu. really struggling, but managing to just about survive. And Solo Q Goats just emitting a serious amount of damage at the moment. The longbow doing a job, and you've got the ability to just whip out the Peacekeeper if someone does push up close to you. But there's a lot of ultimates being used, a lot of teams who are caught in no man's land right now.
Zipper's just trying to poke over this little ledge and see if he can get some damage done, but he's going to have to back up, and he's got plenty of bats to do so, so won't be too worrying here for Solo Q Goat. Shiver's going to have to back down for now, but the gold armor will be reinstated very, very quickly here. Decides to go for the shield battery instead, as the smoke will be put down onto the bridge. A little bit low on that one. Don't usually see Shiv miss those smokes. But 789, having lost Esdesu for now, just trying to hold off the push, and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to get into position to get her back on her feet. So I believe he's going to go back to his teammate with the bangle, and they're going to find somewhere else to play for now, but it's a very tough position for them.
Great damage with the flat line though, even from a distance, sometimes difficult to control, but we're starting to see a few rats emerge as Vic, the last remaining player from Odin Gamers, has heard all of that commotion above him, but is now going to have to transition to the next circle as well as Believer. So we've got 2 players, last remaining. They desperately want to stay alive to try and at least get into the top 10 to pick up some extra placement points, but it's going to be very difficult. Zipeth also extremely low, him and DiffQ, the last 2 remaining players from Solo Q Goats, but Zipeth has got an armor swap.
Why this is all going on, Vic has managed to kind of sneak away from this, and in the kill feed we can also see Alliance versus Kungana. It looks like Alliance have got that first knock. Yuki doing big damage, Zipper's trying to avoid taking big damage himself, as now you're going to hop over to the point of view of Alliance. Maidelo is eliminated here by Alliance, and the 30-30 repeater doing damage onto those players knocked. The question is, can they secure all of the kills here onto Kungana? Are Alliance willing to push this and really try and put the pressure onto KNG?
Well, let's have a listen in with Alliance and see what they think of this fight.
So much damage. Kill
nice,
one.
I got my kill.
Yeah, it's on your solo now.
Okay. Oh, remember, safe up here, guys. Guys, come climb up to me. Vibes, use this if you need to.
We're in Logan over here later. I'm waiting for my... Give me ulti, boys. Give me ulti.
Yeah, dropping it.
I'm gonna TP for the loot and kill the solo.
Okay. Try and get me some light ammo as well.
Yep.
Vibes, you can come up to me, by the way.
Okay, be careful so these fucking monkeys don't drop on us now, okay?
Yep.
You have to be aware of that.
If they drop, they're dead. We'll just...
They're looting the other team right now, I think.
So the call coming in from the IGL hack is there. He's going to portal for the loot and try and kill the solo player as well. So good confidence from him, but more about securing loot. You can hear the comms coming in from Yuki as well. If there's any light ammo, bring it back, my friend, because I need to shoot my gun more.
Yeah, you can see where that circle is transitioning to as well. They were saying they're going to have to play low ground when it does move on over. And they had the high ground in that first game when they won, but for now, they're just going to have to focus on the low ground. They're going to have to focus on what they can do as Kungana eventually are wiped. I know Invictus Gaming were on the other side of things, doing some damage as well there, so they will be within earshot of all those bullets. Solo Q Goats have managed to dive on into an area of the circle where they can survive, but are they going to yet? Just about. No, Zipeth gets tagged, and now DiffQ's the last remaining player. Pierre, from nowhere with a 30-30 repeater, just catches the toe of Zipeth.
Yeah, he had a direct line to Dan Gaskin's comms there, Pierre, and decided to cut him off at the pass as he hits that shot. But it looks like the res will be able to be picked up, as DiffQ's now going to be moving in himself to see if he can secure those kills, or maybe look to get out of dodge. But look at this. All of a sudden, Zipeth goes down again. Diff has to jump into the lava for now to try and survive, and he's got nowhere to play. And the crossfire from all teams means that Solo Q Goats will fall. And now we're seeing the lobby start to once again start to be chipped away with teams left alive. And a lot of fights being taken once more. Round 4 about to close, and we're only having 12 teams alive, Dan. And it just looks like there's not a huge amount of playable area, or there's too many fights being taken before we get to that end game.
Very little buildings to work with. It's all lava and rocks. Maestro will lose one. Sanya, one of their main players who does always pick up those kills, has gone down, but Rugby, the biggest damage dealer on the team, is still alive. That's very important. Top Dogs are looking to push on in and have managed to find themselves into the circle, and they can stop a lot of the teams trying to work their way in here.
Oh, if that was delayed just a few seconds later, that EMP, the bubble would have gone, the damage would have been done, but those few seconds can make all of the difference. The Caustic Ult will go down as well. They really are expending resources here to try and get these kills, and it looks like they will at least get one. Ruabe, though, accidentally falls into a portal, and Unfortunately, taking a little bit of a burn to the back, but will go back through as his teammates are doing a huge amount of work, but he's going to need to heal, and he's going to need to stay healthy as he just about manages to get back to his team.
Just so much vision being blocked from the gas at the moment, but it looks like Top Dogs are able to reset. Elsewhere, Invictus Gaming have been knocked out. Maestro also got wiped out before the top 10. 7, 8, 9 losing players, and somehow Kick still alive, by the way. Our lobby leaders, who were down to just 2 earlier on when there were 17 left, they're still in the mixer with 8 remaining, and with them seeing Maestro going down, that's big for them in this week's play, because they will carry on to assert their dominance at the top of the leaderboard.
Alliance trying to ping what their next move will be. For now, they're just letting the lobby take care of each other. Draconian with a nice shot with a longbow, or I should say, excuse me, with the Sentinel just peeking over that barrier to do some damage and get that Evo shield maybe a little bit closer, but there's a cheeky player having a little flank down low. He has to retreat to play this staircase with his teammates. A little tough rotation for Fenerbahce to move, though. You can see they're on the quicker side of circle here, Dan, so they're going to have to make a move.
They are, and look at where they have to try and go as well. Look at how much lava is within that last circle. You are going to be playing with very little coverage at this point. It's all going to come down to your ability to shoot multiple targets. You need now, as a team, to be focusing the same legends. Communication is massive in a last circle like this. This is not going to be fun for Fenerbahce getting in. They need to choose a spot and work together once they land.
Fenerbahce making that play to avoid all of the fighting that's going down as the zone does close. Top Dogs trying to make a portal themselves, but you can see they're not safe for now, and I don't think the portal was exactly what they were looking for either. I'm pretty sure that Alliance is still to their right-hand side as well. 0-0 has to check that corner, and luckily he does. Alliance make their port. Fenerbahce is safe for now, but they have lost one in all of the carnage, and now there's going to be some shots onto these down players to try and secure the KP, but the only thing that looks like it might be secured now for Fenerbahce is an early bath, but no, Cass Ryan says, I want to play a little bit longer.
Alliance are starting to lose players. Fenerbahce eventually go down. Top Dogs have lost one. Alliance also losing Yuki now, so they're down to 1. Blast is still just about taken down, so Invictus down to 2, but Top Dogs on their own. Rebel, though, one of the healthiest teams right now, a full 3 in a really good opportunity, but just like that, 1 gets wiped down.
Mimu comes in and manages to take down 1. However, they might be able to get that res because the last 2 players, I think, on the other teams are both solos. So Rebel in a really good spot here to pick up the KP, to finish off the downs, and maybe win the game. And this has been arguably, well, without argument, the best week so far for Rebel as Alliance final player does fall.
Well, Underrated are a full 3 as well. They were the last remaining team that just stayed off the radar ever so slightly. It's a 3 versus 3. Rebel, they are in a decent spot, though. They do have health, they do have shields.
Caustic Barrel goes down, but will be shot before it can fully extend, and given the cover that they are looking for. Pierre trying to peel 1 player. Oh, 187! But is it enough to get the knock? Rebel now, they ape onto that. Nothing's trying to do some damage inside the bubble, but Dazzo, he'll get the first knock, and all of a sudden, this fight has completely turned on its head. Underrated, holding off the push coming in from Rebel, and Underrated will win the game. And that's big for them. The new lineup showing why they made the change.
Oh, that's going to be a tough one to take for Rebel, though. They'll want that one back because they had the chance to win that game. After they'd done that initial damage, they were desperate to get the knock, but they walked straight into the Underrated trap. The ambush was there waiting in the bubble, and some of the shots we saw hit by the Underrated crew there was magnificent. They take the victory. They did go under the radar ever so slightly. They were in circle nice and early. They just waited and they watched all that carnage unfold. They did the damage when they needed to, but ultimately they come out with the big W, and that'll be a severe amount of points for them to work with.
It certainly will, and it just shows the importance of always being within arm's reach of your teammates in those end games. Even if one player gets beamed like we saw from Rebel, as long as you can get close enough to keep him alive for 2 seconds when those 2 players overextend to try and get that kill, you give yourself every opportunity to come out on top. But I will say, Rebel been really, really good today. Second place might be a little bit disappointing for them in that particular game, but overall, Dan, they've been one of the best teams so far today.
Yeah, even though you don't find the victory, it's not always about the victory here. It's about consistency across these 6 games. They had plenty of KP to work with. Sometimes you can outplace first place if you've picked up more KP. I think what rocked them a little bit was when they made that initial push on some of the downed enemies. They lost that 1 player, or they got that 1 player knocked down. They weren't able to reset as quickly, and when they re-engaged, even though they'd all got back up to a full armor. They weren't necessarily all up to a full health total. I think that maybe was just a difference maker, whereas Underrated just seemed a little bit more prepared. They had more of a game plan when it came to getting into that last fight. But for all I talk about, you know, Rebel picking up the few kills they did in that last circle, it was Underrated who absolutely steamrolled the lobby. I said they went under the radar, but maybe I should have been watching the kill feed a little bit more, because 13 kills occurred for them, and I feel like a lot of those happened in those last 2 circles.
Yeah, really a huge performance from Underrated. 13 kills, like you mentioned, 25 points overall. That will certainly catapult them up the overall leaderboards. Rebel in second place, we saw just a 3 KP for them towards that end game, means they end up on the same amount of total points as Alliance and Top Dogs. IG inside of that top 5 once again. They've been pretty consistent today. But I'm looking at the other end again, Dan, and I'm seeing Kagana really struggling to get anything going today.
I think what impresses me is the fact that Kick were able to stay alive for so long. I know they only got a few more points than Maestro, but that's big for them when they were top of the leaderboard and Maestro were second. But Underrated will certainly climb up the leaderboard a significant amount. But yeah, there's a few teams who are struggling here, and now we're going into match number 5, and you feel like if they haven't got anything going in the first 4 matches, what makes you start to think that match 5 and 6 is going to be any different? The lobby is starting to realize how everyone plays once again. We've already seen certain teams gatekeeping in the same zones, knowing that those rotations are going to be coming through, knowing which teams are going to be pushing from where. It doesn't always work out in the best way. We saw that from Rascals. They got a few kills, but it wasn't enough to keep them alive and get them into the last circle.
Well, that's what you want from a new player, right? K-Swinny moves over to another team, and HTP Harold comes in, and the man drops 1,757 damage, 6 assists along the way, as well as some KP. That's what you want from a new player, right? You make that change. It's, you know, things weren't working for them the way that they were in the previous seasons, where we were talking about Underrated being probably one of the worst named teams that we have in the ALGS due to their great performances. But they made the change, and it seems to be working for them. Up into 3rd place, jumping up 9 spots now. But the real story, Dan, you have to say, Alliance with that little bit of KP towards the end of that game, and with a good placement, they jump up back into 1st.
Yeah, Maestro dropped 3 spots. They're overtaken by Rebel, Kick, and Underrated. Alliance, though, they'll be delighted with that. But it's just so close between these top 4 teams now, and this is what I was worried about after Game 1. Alliance had 25 points. They were just head and shoulders above the rest of the lobby, but now there's so many teams who can take that first spot off them, and you know, the drop-off is huge. When we look at how many points you actually achieve from these weeks, you get obviously 12 points in 1st, 9 for 2nd, 7th for 3rd, and then you drop down by a single point once you go from 4th and onward, and you could be looking at a difference between 2, 3, sometimes even 4 points, and those points are going to be massive when we get to those final results, when we look at playoffs, when we look at the potential for relegation as well. So you really need to be making the most of having any sort of lead here.
Alliance finding the form we were worried that they were struggling to find for a couple of weeks, but they really have stepped it up. They overtake the leaderboards, and we'll have to see if they can continue that dominance as we head into Game 5. It's time for us to take a quick break before we head into Game 5, so we'll see you in just a few.
Enemy right here.
We are back. The EMEA region, T-Squared and Glitter bringing you the action. We're getting ready for game number 5, and yes, it has been 4 different winners so far. The top of that leaderboard is getting pretty interesting. Looking at the teams that are trying to make their way up over towards the top, a team like Rebel, who's been playing consistent, and you got some inside information, don't you, Glitter?
I do. I got a little bit of insider info here, okay? Because we were talking about how consistent Rebel has been. I mean, they haven't dropped out of a top 6 spot. They've mostly been in top 4 positions. But we talked about the downtime between the last time we played in here. Well, they used that time to make a bunch of swaps, okay? Their original comp was a Wraith Gibby Bloodhound comp. They switched it over to the Valk Gibby Caustic comp that we're seeing here today. And they actually switched their IGL. They went from Taylor now over to Noth. Clearly, whatever those changes they decided to do, they've been working. I mean, they have been, hands down, our most consistent squad.
Definitely getting down with that meta. Bloodhound out, get the rest of them in. Caustic, Gibby, Valkyrie, so important. You can go and play the edge, but if you can fly into the middle, you're going to have Caustic to really lay down things in terms of the barrels. I mean, they were 36th overall, and the top 32 go and make the Pro League, so all of these points are extremely important. And then when you go and you look at the other side of things, teams like Kick, they are trying to make their way in as well. Kangarna is looking on the outside. You have teams like Alliance who are sitting on the bubble in 10th place. So all the teams that are really having to step it up are really coming through. But I'm looking at a team like Dungeon Masters, okay, Glitter? They're in 4th overall, but they're in last place today. What do you think about that?
I mean, you know, we've seen a couple squads now having some off days, that yo-yo effect. We've talked about it a few times, but that is definitely less than ideal now. Coming into today, like you were saying, they were in 4th overall, so they're in a solid spot. But when you take into consideration, like you were saying, how Kick has been doing, I mean, Alliance has, you know, honestly been pretty strong themselves today. And those teams that are by that bubble, when they start moving in, if you're one of those teams at the top that's starting to move down, things get a little bit stressful.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And underrated, they're 32nd, sitting directly on that bubble. So going through and having Herald filling in, and not filling in, just doing so well on Gibraltar has been so impressive. Getting that double underneath the belt in a big fashion is going to give them confidence going forward. First new win with the squad. The zones have been absolutely brutal through these 4 games. Southern zones, 3 of them, 2 launch site zones, 1 over towards the west side on staging. That is not good for the teams on the north side, teams on the east side. If you're landing Overlook, if you're landing Geyser, Skyhook like Solo Q Goats having to make your way through trials, it is so difficult. So I know the teams are hoping for something different. And when Gaskin was talking about what can you do differently, if it continues to show the same zones, we're going to have the same story, right? Alliance finding themselves in that launch site zone, doing fairly well, picking up a majority of their points from those 2 games, which is interesting because when we have the staging thermal station zone, that's where they landed, and that's where they ended up dying fairly early. So it's been really weird to watch how the compositions are really coming into play, but you can see the importance of the rotations. We haven't seen so many different metas throughout Apex. Right now, it's about having as many rotators as possible, whether that's going to be Wraith, whether that's Valkyrie, whether you use them both on your team. One thing's for sure, Gibby is a staple. Teams that aren't running Gibby are typically running Crypto here, and they're hoping that the Crypto EMP is going to stop all these bubbles and counter everything, but that just really hasn't been the case. A lot of these zones have ended out in the open.
Yeah, they have. And I feel like what you're getting at here, Tom, is the fact that you're trying to send it out into the universe, that you want the next zone to be somewhere, anywhere on the northern half of the map. And just to shake things up a little bit, right?
I really feel for the competitors, really, because it's just brutal when you have multiple zones, because everyone's so aware of where they're going to go and play, and it makes it kind of repetitive, and that's not what you want. You want to have something kind of land a little bit closer towards you. But then again, if you aren't able to make those rotations, then you're not going to be able to get a lot of points, and that's what Apex is all about. You have to play smart, and you have to adapt to certain situations, and that's what these players are so good at. So again, teams that I'm really looking forward to stepping up. I thought New was going to have a stronger day. Maestro, they've been kind of sitting in the middle of the pack, but one team, again, Dungeon Masters, 4th overall, 20th today. They need to put some sort of points on the board as we take a look at our highlights from the previous game. It's been a little bit passive-aggressive at certain times. We've seen some really fast games. We've seen some really slow games.
Yeah, and what I'm hoping for now out of these, because we're already at the end of the day, right? We've got only 2 matches left. Now we're heading into the 5th. I'm hoping that the teams like the Dungeon Masters that are just kind of struggling on the day here today. I mean, you even said it, like, New. To be fair, I would lump Top Dogs in, but they had actually a pretty decent game here in this last one. But I do want to see that it's the end of the day, like, give me some extra aggression. Speed the game pace up a little bit. Like, go for that KP and get it where you can, because at this point, we also heard, you know, on Setting Gaskin talking about it, we're at the end of the day. If you haven't gotten it by now, you've got to figure out a way to get whatever points in that you can.
Yeah, no doubt about it. One of the teams that is extremely consistent right now, though, would be International. Okay, we've had 4 games. In 3 of them, they placed 5th. 3/5 out of 4 games. That's absolutely ridiculous. And when we go and look at where they're at overall, they're sitting in 7th, very close to sitting in 5th place. So when we're talking about consistencies, okay, IG, you have my heart. You are consistent.
Listen, we've got the consistency out of Invictus. We've got the consistency out of Rebel. We talked about it at the very beginning of the show. We wanted to see which teams were going to give us that consistency, because some of them really, really needed to do it. And I said it before, it doesn't mean that it has to be a win. You just have to be consistently getting those points. The points are what matter. Get the KP, get some decent placement points, and you'll be in a much better position than some of the teams who are yo-yoing so hard that you're getting a win one game, but then you're getting a 20 place finish. You know, like, you don't want that.
So many teams are on Alliance's tail in that 10th overall spot. They have 12 overall points throughout the 3 rounds. We're in round 4. We're in game number 5 here. Teams directly behind them, Kick. You also have Kungarna, 2 points behind them. New, tied for 13th and 14th with Kungarna. Rascals is there right behind them. Eternal is there. A majority of these teams in the lobby are not happy to see Alliance sitting in first place. They're going to have to hope that a team like IG, maybe Dungeon Masters, maybe it's going to be another team from the other groups as we take a look at a zone. Not as, well, a little bit over towards the southern, but it's a little bit different, I guess. As you can see, the teams that are loving that one are going to be directly over towards that south-hand side. Again, look at all that clutter on the northwest side there, all of that choke area leading into land side, all of the chokes leading on over towards Fragment. Expect a lot of action happening over there.
Yeah, and you know, I'm going to be keeping my eyes on 789 again for this one. They're in a decent spot to not have to make too crazy of a rotation in order to be in a safe spot, and they're in a great spot to do it early enough that they could hold a solid spot, while all of the other teams that are farther north, northeast have to make the rotation through some of those choke points on the eastern edge of the map. So potential there for 789 to have another strong performance as well.
Taking a look at the zone, I know the first place that I'd be putting my team in is across from Lava Siphon in the no-name area, potentially on the platform where the zip line is overlooking the geyser area. That could be a hard pull over there. It could potentially pull back on over towards the Lava Siphon side, west over towards where we saw round number 2 moving towards. But Solo Q Goats haven't had the pop-off games that they were hoping for. We saw them getting layers and layers on top of gatekeeping, plus just tons of action when the fights actually do break out. And that's what they're used to. Warming up, shooting the Prowlers over here. Zipith has had a handful of gold in this game, again, with that Trials loot. Gold bags, gold armors, still not paying off. And the dividends, again, that they were hoping for is they're going to continue to loot up here with that gold helmet. Solo Q Goats, a crowd favorite overall, chat favorite. Chat, I want to know who you're rooting for. Continue to put those emotes in there and continue to cheer on your teams. They need your energy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be fair to Solo Q Goats, they've been doing well on the KP side of things. They're trying to do whatever they can with the hands that they're being dealt throughout the day, but like you're saying, their position is just not currently conducive for where the zones have been. But I do appreciate their aggression, right? They had 6 KP last time, the 2 before that, 5 before that, 2 before that. So they're getting the points in. It's just hard when you're talking about all the gatekeeping and the other teams that they have to push you on these rotations to really do a whole lot placement-wise.
Shots being laid down again. Bunch of 5th places coming in for IG. They're one of those teams rocking no Gibraltar, interestingly enough, and they've been doing such a good job. Noises with the res coming in through in game number 3, I believe it was, and now they are looking pretty. Again, we've seen this from them before, taking the high ground, just getting as much information with the drone as possible. Back on board with Solo Q Goats again, just looting it up. Boot scooting and Boogie over here for a while. They're going to be big chilling again, waiting and just trying to collapse as late as possible. When we saw this zone before, a lot of teams are going to coexist, so expect this game to be very similar to the ones before. Not a lot of action in round number 1 and round number 2. Teams just going to kind of get position and then play it by ear. Once round number 3 starts to chunk their health, that's when they'll be filtered into each other and have to duke it out. Federbake looking like they're going to be going for their rotation as well. And again, that classic composition that Rebel switched on over to seems to be paying off for them. But Redragon, looks like Kerry Rubik going to be the first one to go down, and the pressure is on. This is the buildings that we were talking about, Glitter. Look at the shots, though. It's the R3, it's the EVA 8. I don't think it's going to be enough, though, as it's now a 2-on-1 situation. And hello, the Caustic's even going to get a little bit aggressive and push on over through the portal, but I have a feeling more teams are going to show.
I know you were saying that maybe things will be a little bit slower, and you instantly cursed it. Okay, we've already got one squad gone down, and like you were saying, there are going to be teams in the area that are going to be hearing that entire engagement. So now we're going to see Eternal here having to heal back up. Even though they do get some good KP for themselves here, they're going to have to fend off whoever decides to push them. And as they try to peek that door, instantly shots come through.
That's why the bubble is going to be there. They're going to be able to get some decent loot along the way. Not a lot of light ammo, but still just enough to hold this building for quite some time. And again, they're not fully in. So they're going to be doing some gatekeeping over towards that choke where we were talking about, where Fragment meets over towards the no-name area, and then once the teams push down that over towards that hill, they're going to have to make their way directly over towards where Eternal's at. Problem is if Eternal gets a little bit too zoned in, if they get a little bit too cheeky over towards that side, they're going to get flanked over from behind, and that's exactly what these other teams are banking on. One of the teams that's been playing phenomenal throughout the day, it's been 7, 8, 9. Charge rifle, not a lot of ammo over here, so if you're going against them, I wouldn't be too worried about getting your shields ripped off. And hello, that looks like a... Whoa, I don't know what that was. Was that a crypto drone? Was that a Pathfinder?
Yeah.
I don't know what that was, or if I'm seeing stars.
I think that was the crypto drone, just checking what was dropping in the care package there. But I mean, did you also notice that 789 already has they already had 1 kill on the board? I didn't even realize who it was, but we've already got some points on the board for 789, making their way early in, like I was hoping they would do, and putting themselves in a really solid spot to catch out any of those other squads that have to be rotating past them. They are set up really, really solidly. They have the black market, so they can get a ton of loot from where they are in this area. And honestly, I would be scared to rotate past 789.
No doubt about it, and this building is a priority because a lot of teams will also start to filter in over towards that bridge area. They're banking that it's not going to go over towards the no-name area and maybe pulling over towards that lava siphon side. But then again, you can only really take what's available. If there's not a vacancy, then you're not able to push that one. But 789, you're going to occupy this building fairly early. We know that on the other side of this area, in this gully, every single building is going to be occupied in the no-name area. Right now, it's going to be Wawa looking to try to get something in terms of the res, but I think he's going to have to back off, get that banner, and go back into the crypto drone, which has been destroyed. So about 15 seconds, we may see some more action coming out from Uprising.
Yeah, I mean, Uprising, a squad that we've been able to jump on board with quite a few times today, but struggling overall to really get the points that they were hoping for. So now they're going to see if they can maybe hold off this building and eventually get the res, because they know that they need it if they want to make it to late game. But right now there's so many teams in the area that they're going to have to time this perfectly if they want to get it off safely.
So here's the thing. All right, you have one respawn area. If it doesn't work out, you just go again, right? Why not? Just keep going for that one. Keep getting into that crypto drone. That's the beauty of crypto overall. New looking like they're going to get into a fight. That's Shiv from the Solo Q Goats. First one to go down. Remember, they have double gold helmets on the other side. They also have another team to worry about as a third party is looking like it is coming in. So New methodically playing this one. Shiv has not been taken down all the way yet. He was knocked, but not flushed. So they still have an opportunity on the Solo Q Goats side to get back in this one. Keep in mind, they're absolutely thuming with that loot that they have over towards the trial side, most likely having a gold bag too. So they could have got baited out. New having to play discipline here. I like that back off.
Yeah, they were reconsidering their options, seeing where they were kind of going to be taking some damage from. They're deciding to get some height here with the Valk post-kill here, trying to scout out any of the squads that might be below them. They're in a safe position right now, and they know where a lot of the other players are. And as I say that, they start trying to deal some damage down there below the bridge as teams are starting to make their way into the safe zone.
And this is that interesting spot, right, where no Bloodhound, not in the meta right now. We don't even have, I think, maybe one single Bloodhound overall in this entire lobby. So it's going to be fun to see these fights take place with a little bit of information being discombobulated as Kashera trying to land some shots there with the R301. Does have the blue mag and the 3X, so it makes things just a little bit easier. But that is a Solo Q Goats play if I've ever seen one. We've seen them running in the zone for quite some time. They have a lot of meds coming over from that Skyhook Trials area and most likely going to try to get out of there as fast as possible. Again, New has double rotations in terms of Ashe and Valkyrie. So what they're trying to do is just continue to lock their back down, make sure they're completely safe, bullying Solo Q Goats out of that area so they can make the rotation freely.
Yeah, and we can see New Esports kind of bouncing back and forth here, trying to decide exactly how they want to play. So let's actually jump in and listen to their comms to see what's going on.
At the end, we should have thirsted that guy. As soon as they started running away, we need to try to kill that guy. Because they resetted and now they are behind us. Like, we know that we cannot really fight or we get thirded by them. We should go from 3, no?
Yeah. I still have no shotgun ammo. I have 6 bullets. Oh, wrong thing.
I need shotgun ammo. It's gonna be hard to get inside. We could have just sent it to the bridge.
Moving here.
It's a wild play, but it's not hard to make the play. What do you think?
On the bridge?
Yeah, and then go inside.
Probably
like
there's nobody. Probably there's nobody inside. There's never nobody there.
Because they don't know, right? Like they don't know.
We can go. You guys, do you think?
Yeah, use the ulti here. Fuck it.
Gotcha.
Send it. Can we go that far?
I think so. Maybe not.
Maybe not. Do you want to go here below?
Do you have a portal?
I do.
Okay,
Where?
we can land there and you portal to the right there in the middle.
Oh, we can take it. We can go straight. We can go straight.
Okay.
Go below. Go below. Go below.
Oh, shit.
Bubble him. Bubble him.
Okay, I'm gonna bubble anyway. I'm bubbling anyway. He's safe. I'm bubbling. I'm healing.
Like I can't. We have to just zip.
And they zip. Zip the left side. Nice, good cue. Close.
Yeah. We're fine. We're fucking fine. Let's fucking go.
That was an aggressive rotation that we see coming out of New Esports, and we heard them talking about the potential of them kind of doing that full send onto the fight on the bridge and then deciding not to. I mean, that in either scenario, it was risky, but they got themselves in a decent spot now.
I love listen-ins. Meanwhile, Rats, they're going to be eliminated. My favorite part of that was I have the bubble. I don't need to use it, but I will anyway. That's the life of a Gibby right there. He knows that he doesn't need to use it, but you got to listen to your teammates. Meanwhile, the fight is going down. There weren't lasted very long over towards that side as Cleave's going to go and get knocked, but that is going to be new being wiped by Major Pushers. Double res having to happen, and it looks like they're going to go for the Gibby first, which I do like this play. You can see Nox Gas Grenade has already been used. Cleave's going to go and have to use that bubble if they have that one, and there it is. The smart armor swap on over towards the ground just to buy that extra half second of time. Really nice push there from Major Pushers, and you can see why they have that team name. They are not letting another team coexist in their building.
Yeah, Major Pushers was that squad that was shooting down on you as they made their Valk rotate in. That was a team that I think that had dealt enough damage that they needed to heal before they took the zip up. So they knew that they were there, and in the end, New Esports is unable to withstand the pressure from Major Pushers, but now on board with Rascals, who find themselves in an engagement as well, and they've already taken a lot of damage.
Rascals, Little Rascals, one of my favorite movies of all time. I love it. Let's see what they're going to be able to do over here. Bubble in hand. You got to have to use that one immediately. Phoenix Kid's going to take all that time, though, with their defensive bombardment. This is a tough spot to be in. They're already being looked at by the team underneath the bridge as we take a look at that zone, continuing to pull over towards the lava side. A little bit of that west side has a majority of lava in it, so look at the teams in purple and in white. Those two teams over towards the east side are looking good, but Paradise not able to get into that drone. No EMP currently. Seven doesn't have any utility as well. Tough spot to be in. Also running low on healing. Gonna have to toss that back on over towards his team, but take a look over towards where Solo Q Goats are. Looks like they're being spotted out by a handful of teams. Alliance is there, IG is there, Diff trying to survive. They don't have zip if there's not gonna be any cover for your brothers, and Diff's just gonna call it there.
Once again, the rotations for Solo Q Ghosts are just so unforgiving today. That was rough, and now we actually see 789 taking the position similar to where we just saw Major Pushers. So 789 has been really, really solid so far as their positioning goes, and now they need to start getting some more aggression, more KP on the board for this squad so they can continue their climb up the leaderboards.
Methodical, that's one way to describe them. Meanwhile, Sanya gonna go from Team Maestro and get a knock. Believer trying to do some big things here with the Kraber, not able to find any connections, but also backing that team off. You saw the enemy caustic on the player outlines had the Nox gas grenade in hand. The idea was to get rid of that door, grief the door, and potentially push this team. But once you run into a Kraber, that's one of the things that the pro players get worried about. The only weapon in the game that will give you a one-shot kill with a headshot, you gotta respect it when it's in the hand of Believer.
The Kraber Spitfire combo, okay, they are looted right now. They're scary. They have the guns they need. They have the shields. I mean, it'd be a little bit better if Estistu had a little bit nicer shield situation going on for her, but right now 789 is definitely a squad that people should be scared of, because if they decide to try and make a push on them, it might not end well for them.
789 has had a strong game so far. They've also had a win so far. Will it be the first team today to go for the repeat performance? We'll see. The positioning is good, but when you look at that top right-hand side, still 15 squads remain going into zone number 4. As anticipated, when you have a lot of cover, when you have a lot of buildings, this is that zone where things get extremely hectic, extremely tough to go and rotate if you're on the outside looking in. 789, though, on the perfect edge, looking for the teams over towards the northwest. Arcstar, Kraber, Spitfire, I'd be terrified to push that way.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a solid spot for 789, but now checking back in with Kick, a team that's been doing very well for themselves here today, finding themselves in a little bit of an engagement, having to back off and heal up if they can, while the enemy squad knows exactly where Kick is, but Kick is holding this pretty solidly for themselves right now, and they've been given enough time to get those heals off, so almost a full reset for them.
They're kicking it. I love to see it. Also, the portal was very well played. Again, over towards the very edge. That's 0-0 from Top Dogs. Looking like they're going to be eliminated here very shortly. When they want to go and use that portal, they will. You also have the bubble if you want to go and use that one. That's the play that we've seen so classic from the beginning of Apex. Put that portal down, wait until the very last second, scout things out while you can, and then go and try to use that one if it's going to be open. But still 20 seconds until this zone's going to move. Makes it a little bit more difficult. Hey, that 13 ball's taking up way too much area on your screen. I don't know about that.
Listen, Kick's trying to decide right now where and how they're going to make the push in as soon as the zone continues to collapse. We can see how many squads are kind of just on top of each other. I mean, you called it. We're still at 13 squads as the zone continues to shrink, and this is where things are going to start popping off. And Herbache now in an engagement with, I believe it was a Loba above them, trying to see what they can do. Bubbles have already been popped, and we've got the bats coming out as well. This is going to be a rough place to have a fight.
This is where it all goes down. Round number 4 closing. So many teams going to fight for their way in. Again, a lot of that is covered on the west-hand side by lava. If you don't have a Gibraltar throughout all of these games, you are not going to be in a good spot. One player that's loving playing on this team, Harold, the new addition to Underrated, winning game number 4, trying to, again, show what they're made of here as they try to make their way up the overall leaderboard. Thernal trying to make their way over towards the lava siphon side. They are safe, but the zone is coming to tick them away. A couple knocks coming through on Congarno. That's going to be graceful. That goes down. Meanwhile, ALGS in the kill feed is going to knock Dazo as well, and they are A-okay here, Glitter. Look at the positioning coming in for Thernal.
Yeah, Thernal able to hold everybody off for now, and as they are resetting a little bit, you see the kill feed just absolutely lighting up with the rest of the squads getting into engagements here. Everyone having to rotate away from the majority of the lava siphon area, and you can see how many squads are just waiting outside of these buildings for everyone that has been holding it to have to push out towards them now.
Portals on portals, bubbles on top of bubbles, Kick coming through, trying to clean things up, and there it is. Will the res come through? Bubbles are down. It looks like the drone is going to be detected, though, so you know Crypto is going to be in the area. Looks like it's just going to be a Wraith Q on out of there. And again, when things are looking so solid, with so many squads remaining, you have to go and just try to rat this one out. There was no chance to go for that res. Just the immediate heads-up play that you see is going to buy some more time to potentially just get those extra points overall. Major Pusher sitting on the high ground over here. Look at this, just fish in a barrel here, Glitter. They have all of the enemies directly in front of them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they can see the last remaining player of Kick as well, so we'll see how long that Wraith can hold on for. But Major Pushers has great vantage point from where they are. They can see everyone trying to make the push out right now, and they've got amazing sight lines down onto them. You can see the damage coming out with the 301, and right now, Major Pushers doesn't really have to worry about a whole lot. They decide they're going to go for the Valve rotate, and this is a huge move considering how small the zone is right now.
The one thing you wonder, is that too early of a bubble? Was it worth to go and put that down just so you can go and buy time? When you fly around, you're going to see exactly where all these teams are going to be. Landing directly in the middle here is a risky play. You have a handful of players in the vicinity. Nox gas grenade in hand. There's the enemy bubble, and that's what we were talking about. They don't have a bubble of their own, so they're just going to go take the enemy one. Defensive bombardment is laying on top of them, but they have the cover. Meanwhile, Cleve is taking a lot of damage. Vito with 1 HP with the armor swap and the res. What? No way Major Pushers is alive. You are a god.
How? That was pure chaos. The fact that I don't even... Major Pushers, that was impressive. That was a risky Valk ult, and you made it work. Eternal now. Seeing what Eternal can do for the squad. You can see Major Pushers. I can't believe they survived that. I'm completely flustered right now.
1 HP and a dream. We'll see if they're going to be able to do that one. Meanwhile, 7, 8, 9, they get taken out. IG looking like they're going for another 5th place. Looking for like the most consistent performance we've ever seen in the ALGS. I don't think I've ever seen a team place 5th overall. Noises, a madman trying to survive through all that, getting inside the truck, but it is going to be the zone. Meanwhile, Eternal, who had a prime position going for the previous zone, now in another good position here with 4 squads remaining, 6 kills. Overall, you love to see it.
Yeah, the damage right now on Eternal is fantastic as we see the PK shots coming out, trying to hold off the squads above them. It looks like Moon does go down, but can the rest of his squad manage to keep them alive? They keep surviving these insane situations. The bubble has been used, and they're trying to get some batteries off while the rest of the squads know they're weak, can try to push down on them. Alliance is actually one of the squads above, and this could be huge for Alliance.
Oh, the double kill with the snipe right there. The Kraber coming in from Yuki. Yuki's been having a phenomenal day so far. Alliance tied for 1st place right now, I believe, with 40 points overall. Again, sitting in 10th place on the overall leaderboard, trying to get their 2nd win of the day after taking a strong performance in game number 1. Very similar to how they won that one too, just laying low key, all of a sudden popping off in that kill feed and showing what they're made of. It's a push on over towards that mobile respawn beacon. Yuki again with the shots. The rest of the team is in the vicinity. They know that there's a couple of rats here, but base has to stay alive.
Oh, taking a lot of damage right now as 2, 3. Oh my god! Alliance just barely misses out, but Rebel, the team that got 2nd place last time around, decided it was finally time to take home the win. Huge, huge win for Rebel.
Somehow Alliance doesn't take that one. I believe they were the only team to have a full squad throughout all of that. It is Rebel, the team that changed compositions. You got the intel, you got the inside information. It seems to be paying off. 2nd place in the previous game, just like you said. 1st place in that game. Another team that is trying to fight their way up on that overall leaderboard. What a game. That was just an absolute bloodbath, and it was brutal for those teams on the outside. Again, trying to make their way in. 18 points. Meanwhile, Alliance, they're going to continue to add on that total. Not too shabby, 13 overall. And Eternal with a lot of kills, most overall with 10.
Yeah, impressive performance out of Eternal. Major Pushers, though, we were watching them with their aggression. 8 kills for them, 5 onto Invictus. But even looking all the way down at the other side, Fenerbahce, they went out early, but they were still able to get 6 KP on the board. So, I mean, this was a crazy game, to say the least here, but massive performance out of Rebel. I mean, I said that they hadn't gotten below 6th place coming into this game. They've now gotten 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 6th for the day. So that is insanely impressive.
It's like batting the Apex cycle right there. They're just going around all the bases, making sure that all of the boxes are checked. What a performance there for Rebel. Piet, Taylor, and Noth taking it big. I thought Vaves could have been able to pull that off, but we saw so many close fights throughout all of that. I mean, just living with 1 HP down to, you know, the very end right there. And I thought Vaves, maybe with that quick little armor swap, could have been able to pull that off. But no, Rebel says no. As we take a look at that damage, Taylor, 1,700. It's been kind of a theme, right? We've been seeing a lot of Valkyries putting up big games, and the Gibraltar as well. We know Caustic a little bit more on that passive side.
Yeah, this was a massive game for Taylor, huge game for Rebel in general. They've been getting so close to that first place finish so many times and then finally able to close it out here with only one more game remaining in the day. So this was a massive performance and a clutch performance for Rebel.
Let's bring on Kate to help us break down that action. Again, seems to be a theme. Whenever a Caustic wins, Kate just randomly shows up.
I mean, it's sort of like saying Beetlejuice 3 times. I 100% show up, and that's fair. Speaking of things that are showing up, and by that I mean teams, we keep talking about Rebel and that consistency. C for consistency is absolutely the spice of life. It's not variety, folks. It's consistency, and that's how, obviously, we've seen Rebel play. I'm going to go back to this team comm question because I know we've talked about it a few times, but I'm just going to lay it out here right now. It feels like if you have a Gibby, you're in the late game. If you don't, Tom, your thoughts?
You're just really stuck because Gibby has so much to help you, I guess, get out of jail free card, right? When you have the bubble, when you have the defensive bombardment. He's a defensive character, defensive legend for a reason, but then you add Caustic on there, who's going to be able to also help disengage, help hold buildings, etc., and is just a demon when it comes to the very end zone. And then you have a strong Valkyrie on your team. Helps with the rotations, helps get the scan for the next zones. You have so much to be able to use. The passive, everything about the Skyward Dive is extremely crucial, but it's about the way that you played that as we take a look at the highlights from the previous games. I mean, what a performance coming in from Rebel. Not having that much experience with this team composition, just like Glitter was talking about, to be able to come through and have these performances today is a testament to how good they are and how bad they wanted to move up on the leaderboard.
And Glitter, yeah, I was going to say, Glitter, we've seen so many ways of how they've done things right here. Talk to me a little bit about what we're looking at. And obviously, we're looking at Alliance right now, but Rebel has to be a big storyline here today because they showed up, and as a bottom 8 team, they needed to.
1,000,000%. I mean, clearly, that break, they utilized every single second of it to try and figure out a way to optimize their team and their gameplay. And I mean, we're seeing that reflected, obviously, in their performance. I mean, outside of Invictus, you know, they are easily the most consistent team across the board. I mean, we're going to be playing 6 games, right? And if they get a 5th place finish, then they will literally have made a finish for each number of games that we have played in that day, which I don't think I've ever seen that happen.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that. We've had a lot of firsts here, especially with 5, or what was it, 5th place over and over again, 4 5th places out of 5 games from IG. That is absolutely ridiculous. But the zones have been extremely unforgiving. They've been kind of monotonous, and it's tough to deal with again for teams like Solo Q Goats. And I think that's why you saw Diff just stand still, right? If I was playing, I'd be like, why is this happening to me? It gets a little bit frustrating because of how much you put into this and you know what your capabilities are. So if you're not able to perform after the first 5 games, it could get to you a little bit. But these players are so well seasoned, they're so well disciplined, and they have just hearts of gold. So I'm expecting everybody to bring it in this final game. And again, every game really matters because you have to get these points on the board. And just like Dan and Onset were talking about, if you can maybe get 1 or 2 extra points, that could end up meaning 3 or 4 extra points in the overall leaderboards. And when you look at a team like Rebel, they have 1 point from round number 1, 1 point from round number 2, and 0 points from round number 3. They're already guaranteed more points today than they've had from the first 3 rounds of the Pro League.
Wow, and those numbers do not lie, Tom. We are absolutely right. And I also want to make sure everybody mentions Rebel, former Flavor of the Month. A fan favorite, to be sure, no doubt about it. Certainly with that here, I'm looking through some of my notes because I know we're taking a look at this overall leaderboard. And this is, of course, groups B versus C. Remember, in EMEA and North America, today, Friday, we're going to have groups B versus Group C. And then Sunday, we go to A versus D. Now, let me just bring up something here as we take a look at this leaderboard. Obviously, you mentioned Rebel coming up, taking Alliance's spot, really showing off what they can do. But I also wanted to mention real quick that, you know, the last time we saw B versus C, Dungeon Masters and IG were taking the top spots, but it was a lot more even than it seems to be right now. Is that an interesting surprise? Have we gotten to the place where now these players are warmed up and ready to go? Tom, your thoughts?
I'm thinking that for sure, but you have a new meta now. We have a new season. We have a new legend. There's been some minor changes here and there, and we were wondering what exactly is going to happen. I think that we still see Valkyrie, Caustic, And Gibby is just a staple right now, and Rebel really proving that with the switch that they made from getting off Bloodhound. But going back to the stats again, if Rebel's able to win this, they get the extra 12 points, right? There's a huge battle going on between them and Alliance because that's a 3-point difference. Then it goes down to 7 points for third place. And if you're able to win this, if you're Rebel, you're going to go from having 2 points overall to 14. And 14th is 8th overall. They can go from 36th to 8th place and go from possibly being relegated out into the playoffs. That's how big this performance is for Rebel right now.
Anybody who says math isn't fun didn't just hear Tom use it right now. Absolutely. Speaking of fun, enter for your chance to win. Enter Lenovo Legion's ALGS Pro League giveaway for your chance to win a free Lenovo Legion gaming PC. Visit twitter.com/Lenovo Legion. That is twitter.com/Lenovo Legion. And I'll also say this as well. We talked about being on the bubble and those teams, and this is, of course, going to be a storyline we're going to follow throughout the rest of this Pro League split number 1, and that is underrated at 32. So remember that they are down there literally on that bubble line. Things you should also make sure you follow up on our socials. And here's that lovely graphic. Oh, look. There's Tom. At Play Apex Esports on Twitter, Play Apex Esports on YouTube, and twitch.tv/PlayApex. We're everywhere. We love you. We love you. Follow us. Give us that free sub. We'll reward you with some fabulous content, some incredible gameplay, and some outstanding work amongst all of our squads and our teams here today. Well, you know what? That's going to do it for us for the moment. We're going to be right back here, though, because game number 6 is right around the corner.
Welcome back for Game 6 of the Apex Legends Global Series EMEA Pro League. 5 games done and dusted. The day has absolutely flown by so far, Dan Gaskin, and we've only got 1 more game to go.
Yeah, and the Alliance are in a pretty comfortable position, I'd say, after it looked a little bit dicey here or there, but I feel like they could have come out on top in that final game, but they just couldn't quite close it out. But it was enough to keep them on a good amount of points at 53, but it's Rebel. After managing to finally get that victory after the second place we saw earlier, they put one on the board and they go to the top of the leaderboard here with 55 points. So that victory doing everything for them, but it's still extremely tight here. Kick are still there or thereabout within the possibility of winning today's matchup. They did have a bit of a disappointing game there, but certainly at least they're within reach of first place.
Yeah, Rebel, what a return to form. And about time, to be honest with you. You know, we love Flavor of the Month. We really happy these guys got signed to Rebel, an org they've been looking for so long. But the performances hadn't been there so far, Dan. You know, you got to call a spade sometimes. And after 3 weeks, those 3 gentlemen would have been very, very disappointed. But to see their performance today, it's like, finally, boys, where have you been for 3 weeks? 4 weeks it's taken you to remind us of how good you are. And all it takes sometimes is 1 week to turn all of your fortunes around.
It has been, though, like we see the top 5 teams here, or the top 6 or 7 that have just been able to find some consistency today. We've seen all South circles. Like, it has definitely been favourable towards those teams with dropping in and around those South zones. We can't overlook that fact. We realise that fact. The teams are probably realising that fact, that those have been pretty lucky circles. Maybe now, match number 6, we get a little bit lucky, right? And we see a North circle just to switch things up and see who can react better. Because if we see one of those same teams from the South win the game in the North, then we can get rid of this conversation. We don't have to worry about it. We can be like, oh, it's fine, because the same teams are still winning. But it certainly is easy to look towards the bias of, well, they're landing here, and, you know, that's near the South circle. But certainly the teams are up there. They still deserve to be, but I do feel for those Northern landing teams.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And looking at the comp that Rebel have been playing as well, they've been playing Gibby Caustic, and that's always a good thing, right? If you're getting zones that are close, you don't have to make those difficult rotations. You can get into zone early, you can set up with Caustic, you've got Gibby Bubble for those end zones as well. So everything's kind of fallen in their favor so far, but it's one thing to have the, you know, it's one thing to have the hand in front of you. It's another thing to be able to convert into a win and into a lot of points. So congratulations so far for Rebel for their performance. One more game, Dan. One more game, and you've seen how tight that leaderboard can be. I want Dan Gaskin predictions for the last game, because there's nothing more exciting than putting you on the spot when you don't expect it.
Well, I think that we're going to be rewarding teams who can be aggressive, get KP, but then also get out of the fight and not leave themselves vulnerable to a third party. But at the same time, a lot of the top teams are going to be just trying to play for placement here. They're going to be taking it very safe because you are very close when it comes to the top 3 or 4, just a few points within it. I think Kick Esports are going to break out in this game, and I think they might be able to come top 1.
I knew you were on my side, really. I knew you were on my side, really. Sometimes you pretend not to be, but I knew you had my back.
I swear you predicted New Esports, not Kick Esports, but
I keep flopping between the two because we didn't see the graphic. But anyway, Rebel are going to be the team we're going to be watching as we are live now with our final game of Pro League week number 4. Game 6 is in front of us, and for Rebel, I'm pretty sure they wish that there was more than 6 games today, because it really has been a standout return to form for these 3 gentlemen.
Yeah, just a lot of consistency across the board for some of these teams. I think that T-Squared was pointing it out as well. Invictus Gaming, they're a squad who are finishing 5th. Like, they just are always up there in or thereabouts the last circle. But for Rebel, they need to now bounce on top of this, and they need to ensure that they can still get some points despite being in first place. They need to use that as a bit of a momentum shift. Well, it is slightly further north, but it is another South Circle, I would say. It's staging that's going to be the main focus area. There is the chances it could pull just south of staging as well. So there is going to be a lot of places where people can reside for the time being, but then this could be a pretty awkward circle with the train track also coming into play.
A good circle for Alliance once again, though, and they're going to be very, very happy. They're going to want to wrap these zones up and take them with them everywhere they go, every single week that we have in Pro League or wherever we might be competing in Apex Legends, because it really has been favourable to them, to say the least. But they have converted. Like I say, it's very easy sometimes to say, you know, we've got zone, everything's cool, but you've got to put the points on the board. The last thing you want to do is when you do get a zone in your favour, if you're playing a week where maybe it's a little bit more sporadic, it's when that zone comes down, not taking advantage of it, because we have seen that from Alliance as well.
Yeah, we have seen Alliance sometimes fail to take advantage of their kind of when it lands on thermal. I think actually Alliance really struggle, but when they're moving a very short distance, then they seem to be a little bit better because they can loot up and then they can transition towards the next zone. They can pick up some kills on edge, or they can just play the next circle. They don't seem to like it when it's actually on thermal, but they don't have to worry about that. It's not going to be finishing thermal. It's going to be finishing a little bit more up towards staging, so they do have to move ever so slightly as we just watch the Solo Q Goats. It's the only action that's on the map right now is Solo Q Goats taking on the Prowlers, and they're leveling up their Evos. But Solo Q are going to have yet another long old route. At least it's on their side of the map in terms of it's on the west side, but it's going to be very southwest that they have to move. So that is going to be 6 out of 6 today zones, all in the south side of the circle. And I'm sure all these teams that drop up north are just going to be thinking, maybe we should have switched and just started landing in the south here in the ALGS.
One day I'm going to get really hyped when someone kills the Prowlers, you know, because it's just, you know, we see it all the time, and it's like, yeah, cool, but one week someone's going to tune in and go like, have they changed something? You know, the Prowlers now like absolute mega bosses, like final bosses, and I'm just going to be like screaming about it. But for now, I'll stay professional. Anyway, Rebel. We're going to watch them make their rotation, already being pretty quick about it as well. And with this comp down, it's not surprising to see that Valkyrie, Gibraltar, and Caustic center zone-based comp. You want to get into a building, and that's what they're trying to do right now, already working their way over to staging. They do have the Sky with Dive available as well if they wanted to save even more time, but it looks like at the moment they're just going to try and stay out of danger, to be honest with you. They can make a rotation ahead of a lot of teams without taking too many fights, so I think they're trying to save that for a kind of last-minute escape if they needed to. Or maybe just, you know, if they just feel like this is a better route for them to take right now where they don't have to fight.
It also means that when they are in that central circle, or if they are transitioning to that central circle and they have to drop the bubble, they're going to be a very difficult team to push against, because as soon as those gas traps go down within that bubble, most teams will back off. Most teams won't actually try and take that fight, and that sometimes can just give you that extra second or two to reset, pop a bat off, and then you reassess your situation, and sometimes that can be the difference between life or death. But you can see the positions they are considering playing at the moment. They certainly could hold this area by the fences for now if they want to, but also they've got time just to loot and boot before they decide where they want to move. For Alliance, they are going to move towards the northern side of Thermal Station. It doesn't look like they're going to stretch their legs any further. The circle could still come down this far, so there's no reason, I guess, for them to try and bank on it going too much further north, but they're just seeing if anyone is behind them in Thermal. That's why you're seeing Yuki just scouting the land, and there you saw it. We saw it. I don't know if he would have saw it, but one player is in Thermal right now.
Yeah, good thing about this position for Alliance as well is if they clear out all of this southern side, if it does pull towards staging, then they have, you know, that choke they can play and a little bit of high ground kind of overlooking all the other teams rotating in from the north of the map. However, if it does pull back towards them, everyone has to come through the 2 chokes that's coming from the north. So they will be able to pick up so many KP potentially, or I should say they will have the potential to pick up so many KP. So this is a really solid spot for them to hold, but we have seen those buildings be contested, and with a couple of buildings available there, it's about holding as much of that ground for as long as possible before you have to retreat into one of those buildings and call it home. But as we move over to countdown now, we'll see a care package going down there. We'll have to check in with the players themselves to see if there was any real goodies to be picked up, if there was an alternator, for example, maybe even a scout dan, as that has found its way now into the care package.
Yeah, that's for Solo Q Goats. The first POI they dropped down to, there's already a contest. They've already got another team doing a little bit of damage towards them. It looks like there's 2 teams potentially in the middle here, so there is a chance for Solo Q Goats to pick up some KP and engage in a fight if they would like to, but it depends if they want to overcommit to this. They have done a severe amount of damage. It'll be good for DiffQ to get up to purple, and then at 3 purple, Solo Q Goats will be looking alright, but they always do look alright. Coming from Trials, they're always going to have the golds, they're always going to have the purples, but it's more so the distance of which they have to travel, and by the time they get into the circle, everyone's already taken the priority spots and they have to fight their way in. It can be really difficult.
Well, not too much to report so far. We have seen 1 team fall. Didn't catch who that was in the kill feed. We'll get you an update on that as soon as we can, but at the moment, as you say, Solo Q Goats just playing a little bit of a game of you shoot some bullets, I shoot some bullets, as Underrated find themselves at the tippity top of the mountain, so to speak, inside a thermal station, right at the top of the drill building. Ratting, I think is the only way to put this down. There is no honor to be had here for Underrated, because this is a competitive game. They do not care They want to show no presence, and they want someone to try and take this structure from them.
Yeah, and I think Alliance were aware. They heard something happening. That's why they kept checking towards Thermal. What Underrated can do here is, yes, they can wait to see if someone wants to take it, even though this might not be a desirable location once that circle eventually pulls. For now, it's not a bad one because you've got the beacon to your west, which you can jump down to before the when the circle comes in, or you can just transition back and forth with a portal, and those beacons can be huge. And maybe that's the plan for Underrated here, is they hold this for as long as they can, they get the scans. You're going to look at Dazzo probably to go back and forth and ensure that those scans are had so they gain as much information as they can.
Well, here's one of my 2 picks. It's Kick Esports for predictions. And they're currently just chilling in the zone at the moment. And not surprising, to be honest with you. I don't think they're going to want to get involved in too many battles as this game does start. They're going to use the replicator to get some extra med kits in the back pocket as well. So it looks like it'll be the long game for them. And quite rightly so. It feels like they've done a lot of the work already so far today, Dan, picking up KP and getting themselves some good placements. So I kind of like this strategy. And it's something we've seen develop as the weeks have gone by in ALGS. If you can play zone, you can play it for a little bit longer. If you're working your way around the replicators, if you've got, you know, the credits to get those meds on board, you can avoid a lot of fighting and more space opens up for you for rotating late.
Yeah, you want to be able to just arrive to the party at the point where a few other teams have gone down. Well, Kick are rotating. They are just planning their move. Let's see what they have to say about this transition and see what they have in mind.
It's staging, you see?
I think anyway we should play from Thermal now.
From Thermal? I don't think so.
Staging is stacked. You remember we always play from Thermal and play there.
The only thing I know is we need to go
Let's get balloon. Let's get the balloon.
That's all I know.
1 second, where is the medkit?
He's on the crafting.
On the crafting here, on this side. Towards no-name side.
Where do you guys wanna go?
Let's go.
We should play from top, no?
I need to heal first.
I think so. I think we should play from top.
Healing.
I think we should play from top. We will get more kills.
You're alone. You're alone.
Yeah, it's fine.
I was waiting for Roshi. But yeah, like I think top is gonna be better, EMEA. But also it can be harder to join, but...
Yeah.
A Thermal is stuck 100%, guys. Like we cannot get Thermal, like never now.
The good thing is that Staging has no beacon, guys. So the team that are not Staging didn't know if the sun is there. All the Thermal teams knows that the sun is Thermal. Is Staging.
Yeah, so we need to get advantage until they don't know. So we need to get like arrive there.
I'm popping to syringe.
We need to arrive there soon, you know?
Yeah.
Otherwise
we go from tunnel, from landslide?
No, let's go.
Because on the bottom one people camp a lot.
Nah, in the bottom is impossible. We should just go from landslide and we hold landslide. And then if we need...
Well, lots to take away from that listening, actually, Dan. And it's something which, again, we talk about metas developing, right? And it's being aware of how many teams in the lobby have beacon and how many teams do not have that information. And they are basing their rotation on the fact that some teams are going to be slower or might be having to move and where they want to play from due to the fact that they may or may not have the beacon information. And it's just fascinating to see how a third, fourth beacon has become even more impactful in Apex Legends than the first one itself.
Yeah, you have to be aware of who's going to be in certain spots because it really can make or break your rotation if certain people are holding stuff. And speaking of holding things, well, hold those bullets because unfortunately the solo queue goats, they're down and they are out. They won't be able to do anything in the rest of this game as they are clearly wiped. New Esports are there and Dungeon Masters are on the other side of them, and it just seems like there's a little bit of congestion here. Too many teams in one space.
Yeah, Dungeon Masters lost one as well to the third party, so, or should I say they weren't able to get the res, and it looks like that player will be cleaned up by the third party. So we do see that the zone is going to be pulling away from Thermal Station towards Staging. Alliance still in those buildings to the southwest are going to be very comfortable with that position, but they will maybe be able to use that left-hand side to move up late behind some teams. But as we just see, unfortunately, the not come in. The portal will now go down from Plush because he tries to get the recovery on the banner. There's a Gibby there, and he's going to have to be very careful to pick that up and get out of dodge nice and quickly. He loses his shields, but doesn't lose his life. And it looks like Dungeon Masters will be able to survive for now.
Get the banner and hopefully be able to get into a beacon as well. My only worry for Alliance is underrated. They are still going to be the thorn in Alliance's side. The fact that they are in Thermal Station and they are going to be there waiting in the wings to potentially, you know, catch Alliance off guard. But at the moment, New Esports, they're pushing up on this. They want this KP. It doesn't look like Dungeon Masters are going to be able to get away. They tried to get the banner, they tried to get the chance of having a full 3 once again, but New Esports not allowing it to happen. And this is where we see the aggression from Ash as well. I don't think that third player is going to survive. Well, actually, maybe this is just going to be a big old chase as New Esports traverse the entire map to try and get 1 KP. And
I was
look
just
what
about
happens.
to say, yeah, don't get too excited about 1 KP because there's always teams in the vicinity looking to take advantage, and now they lose 1 player carelessly as Tyler goes down. Kick Esports now trying to move in and trying to do the damage to finish off this fight. Defensive bombardment will go down. Kishira joins Tyler, and it might be all 3 of them into the death boxes. It is indeed, as Kick Esports sees the opportunity presented to them.
Both of your predictions fighting each other there, but now Kick also on the back foot ever so slightly. Another team seems to be putting some damage, but they should be able to reset comfortably. I mean, that is what happens in every one of my ranked games, by the way. Someone chases me across the entirety of the map, but no one ever catches them, whereas it's justice being done then as they perhaps overstayed their welcome with how far they pushed across the map. They left themselves vulnerable, and Kick took full advantage of that. New Esports probably going to be kicking themselves. They won't even pick up a placement point as they finished in 16th spot. But Kick are up into 15th after they kicked that team out of the lobby, and they will get some KP to try and catch up first place. Remember, Kick are 8 points behind first place. Rebel at the moment are the leaders. Alliance in second on 53, Rebel on 55, and Kick are on 47.
Well, Top Dogs at the moment inside of this carriage, kind of overlooking staging. However, not looking too healthy. I think Mimu might have just been brought back into the game, judging by the armor that's on him at the moment and the fact that he's having to pop some more meds. So 0-0 doing a good job, and Ruabe, unfortunately, is just going to be a banner for now. He's not going to be back in the game and be able to do any significant contribution unless they can pick that one up and get him back in the game. But Alliance, we talked about this position, and we talked about this choke. A Kraber makes everything easier for them. In the hands of Hackis, 1 shot here. Not only does he get purple, but he can clear out this side of the map too.
Yeah, the Kraber helps the distance between the 3 of them as well at the moment. Hackis is away from the other 2, but the fact he's got a Kraber means he could very easily turn and help them if they manage to, if they get pushed from the other side, which it has the potential. If Underrated are still there in Thermal, we haven't been able to see where Underrated are. If we can check in on Underrated at any point, that would be great, just because it would be nice to see whether they could be a nuisance to Alliance. Elsewhere, several other teams have already managed to get themselves within the circle. Kick one of those. They did have some damage taken after they got another bit of KP, but they are within the circle. That's the important factor.
Just playing under this bridge at the moment. Hayaka going to have to pop a battery as well, and OJ Range just trying to see if he can get any kind of angles here, just pushing up and making sure that his teammates can heal and get healthy. But Xako at the moment is just having lots of problems actually doing so. Finally, it looks like he'll be able to get healthy, and Xako will as well. And now a little jump up here, a little look around this corner. However, there's a charge rifle there, which is going to drop some shields. As we see in the kill feed, Alliance are in a battle, and it looks like they're not on the healthy side of it. They did manage to get 1 knock, but it'd be interesting to see how that one turns out.
Yeah, Alliance are fighting 789 and I think Underrated. They're all 3 of them are scrapping. Alliance are just joining in from a distance, but it looks like Underrated tried to push up. They collided with 789, and then Alliance are just being the kings of the castle from the top here of Thermal, raining down hell on both of the teams below. So this was perfect for Alliance. All they needed was one other team to help them out with Underrated. 789 was that team, and now Alliance should be comfortable from their backside. This is perfect for them.
Let's see how Alliance players jump into a listen-in with Alliance.
They're trying to walk up this team, though. Okay. They're playing the circle already. Try and beat this guy when he gets rest.
Try and get a body shot in. I'm gonna try and shoot him as well.
He's gonna land safe, though.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, true. God, what the fuck was that up?
They have Valk, though. They have Valk, right?
They're still in behind. Yeah, trying to look.
Yeah, we need to force them away. But I mean, we're in here, kinda.
He's playing right here.
Yep.
Do you think we can Valk?
We're in on me. We're in on me in this corner. This is a really good corner. Really good corner. We just gotta hold the team. We gotta force these guys to Valk ulti, and then we fight the choke.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, how do we fight the choke from here, though?
Body shot the guy out there. GB.
GB's over here.
We just put them up aggressively and GB ulti. We just ABC them.
Okay. ABC them. You guys are liberating.
Yeah. We just need to wait till 7 night to do something stupid, and then we go on it.
How much health do you have, Haggis?
Not a lot.
I've only got 120 L-star bullets.
We need to start getting pressure now. Come up to me. We gotta pressure this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Valkyrie below. Valkyrie below. Nice.
Rip. Alright, I'll make a TP aggressive now. Get ready to G-build to this and we push.
Yeah, I'm selling for now.
I got cracked. Gotta pop it back.
Yeah, do it.
I need to heal again.
Just heal up.
I'm gonna ult soon.
Go back.
Gotta heal again, bro. I got cracked again.
Just play in the corner. We're in the corner here.
I know. Okay, I'm gonna go.
We're safe in the corner. We just gotta swing on this later. We have headlish as well.
Should I ult now or should we wait for it?
Wait for it. Get angle first. Try to get a crack.
You got one more bat for me?
No, I don't.
I'm not saying about this guy.
One is
nice.
right back.
Move up. I got a cure. Bad pop.
Come back.
We might need the Valkyrie to this, if you look at some.
Rebel are dying.
Okay. Wait, that's not Rebel. That's not them. We're gonna have the Valkyrie to this. We can, right? This zone might hurt though.
We can't.
Fuck. Okay, I'm popping ult cell. Do you have
mobile maybe?
They're gassing up, break it.
A very, very tough position here for Alliance, Dan. You know, they left it a few seconds too late. The team's managed to flood, and now with that zone pull away, they don't have the ability to Valkyrie over the top without taking that much damage from zone, which would unfortunately take them down. So at the moment, it looks like the only way is forward. They're going to have to aid this team.
Yeah, there's another team right in front of them. They'd have to stand in the red to ult, and you just leave yourself not just vulnerable to the red, but also free shots from the other team on the other side. Even just testing it there, they're testing the red. This is not going to be nice. They've already used the portal, so the time is now. You have to go. The bubble comes down, but look how much tick damage they're taking on set. This is not going to be fun whatsoever. Fenerbahce should just have free KP here by this point.
They should have. The portal being used as well, so they don't have any mobility whatsoever. You wonder if they're just going to try and do what they can, maybe bubble out and just try and survive. That's exactly what they're going to do. They take a little bit of damage, but make a little bit of damage. There's a caustic ulti as well, and Fenerbahce just wiped the floor with Alliance. They just backed themselves into a corner, Alliance. They're going to want that one back. Did not go the way they would have hoped.
Well, that's bad news for Alliance as well. They were in second place, 2 points behind Rebel. We'll have to see how that one plans out, because Rebel got eliminated. You heard them in their comms. Rebel are down. They were the team they were chasing, so it's probably going to come down to a bit of KP to see whether they can take first place. But also remember, Kick were only 8 points behind Rebel, and they are still alive. 8 squads remaining. If Kick can get themselves into a top 3 placement here with just a few KP, they can most likely take this week's matches. And there's some KP there. Fenerbahce walking straight into the bullets of OJ Rain.
Yeah, I think that one was donated by Fenerbahce. Kath Ryan just caught flying through the skies, split from his team, although another one of his teammates did go down. So Kick on this middle level of the building. There is a team above them. There's also a team up in the tram above them. But oh my word! Look at that spray coming in from the R301. That's more KP potentially here as Ron is taken down. And Maestro might be able to get him back up. They don't have the finishes yet, but you can see they're just on the hunt for KP at the moment, Kick in a really strong position.
They're in a strong position, but you can see Bryn above them. He could be a nuisance for Kick. Rebel is still alive. Pierre's still alive, excuse me. The comms were wrong, actually, that we heard earlier. They were saying Rebel were down. Alliance might have thought they were safe, but Pierre ratting out. This is massive for Rebel. He has to try and stay alive. Ooh. If he can get a top 5 placement, maybe they can still win today's matchup. But if Kick do find them, it's not. It's Maestro that finds them. Rebel go down in 7th place, but that might keep them above Alliance at the very least.
So Kick just looking to hold the team on the platform. Anyone that's below them, they're just going to rain down shots. They're looking for KP right now, and then maybe hoping the teams above them do enough damage where maybe they can make a late Valkyrie ult up and make some sort of influence on the end game. But I mean, the man you're watching on your screen right now, he's got 5 kills to his name. He's saying anyone who wants to fight, I'm up for it. Let's have a scrap.
Well, at Thurnal, they want a little bit of a scrap as well. Maestro go down in 6th position, so they won't be able to push themselves too much further up the leaderboard. I think this is all Kicks every day of the week. Even if they don't win this game, they've got plenty of KP, they've got placement points as well. It should be enough for them to overtake the likes of Rebel, but you know, a top 3 would just make it that little bit more secure, so they have to be careful to play this one correctly. Invictus Gaming still alive as well, but I don't know how healthy their squad is. I only saw Bryn, so they might just be a 1 at this point, but there's certainly a massive chance for all of these teams to pick up some big points. No, they're a full 3, excuse me. So Bryn's got a Kraber as well in the perfect time to go across.
Misses that shot though, has to switch to the wingman, but massive damage output. DPS for days coming in from Bryn of Invictus Gaming, and now making the aggressive portal as well to try and finish off these kills, to try his best to clear their backs. Massive plays from Bryn. We talk about him being a superstar. This is exactly why.
That's even more KP for Invictus Gaming as well. A victory in a massive kill game could still have them up here as they're still doing damage. Top dogs get wiped in 4th position. Now we have our top 3 teams. IG still there. I'm believing Kick are still around and kicking as well, but they're below IG. It's not going to be easy whatsoever for them to get up here without a Valkyrie ult.
Yeah, Kicker in a great position as far as, you know, leaderboards are concerned, but not quite as great as far as winning the game is, with all things considered. Going to drop off the armor here as well for potential heal off. Giving the gold armor to the Wraith player is always a good idea to get the sell off a little bit quicker, to get that syringe off a little bit quicker, and that might, to be honest with you, Dan, be what actually wins this game. Eternal down on the low ground. They're actually going to ape now. They bubble up, they get the break, but they don't get the knock initially. They take some damage, and now you're going to see Kick Esports moving in. Hyaka manages to get one. He actually falls in the process of doing so, and now it's all up to Exaco. He gets one. OJ Reigns trying to do what he can as well. The Spitfire starts to sing, as now Invictus Gaming get involved as well. Exaco goes up to the high ground, but it's going to be Invictus who survived the longest and will close out the final game of the day as your champions.
But Kick did get second, and I think that should be enough points for them to take the entire lobby. We'll wait for final confirmation, but they certainly gave themselves the best chance possible. As for Invictus, that will be a big climb up the leaderboards. They were in 7th position. They were around 25 points off 1st place, but they probably gained about, what, 20 odd points just with that game alone. So they could shoot up to top 3, maybe even top 2 if they got a little bit more KP than I saw. But I don't think it's going to be enough to overtake Kick. If my maths is right, I think Kick are up there, should be winning this one. Maybe Rebel if they got some KP I didn't see. But it was a very interesting final circle that just came down to a little scrap, and ultimately IG should have won from the position they did, and they managed to just close it out comfortably.
Well, I just want to say, by the way, that I'm a Bryn fanboy forever now. We talk about Hackis making crazy plays. We're always talking about, you know, the likes of, oh my God, completely forgot my name. We're obviously talking about him that much that I actually can't remember his name. Hardeki, thank you. Yeah, how did I forget that? Bryn is in that bracket right now, okay? Bryn is in that bracket. Every time we're watching the man, he's making crazy plays, and that endgame was a perfect example of it. Get me a Bryn shirt, IG. That's why. 12 kills, 12 points for the placement, 24 overall. Have Kick done enough though, Dan? Have Kick done enough? It's going to be very interesting to see these final standings.
Kick have done enough just from the maths that I can see, and what's even more interesting, IG I think have done enough to overtake Rebel as well as Alliance. So I'm fairly certain, if my maths is correct, Kick first, IG second. We'll wait for confirmation, but I'm pretty sure it's there or thereabouts. But what a game that is from both IG and Kick. And even, you know, the chance that Alliance had when they thought, you know, Rebel were going to go down early. They thought they had a good spot in the zone, but then they made just a difficult call where they put themselves between a rock and a hard place, quite literally. Couldn't Valk out, and they fall in 9th place with only 0 KP, so only 2 points. But what a game that was that really resulted in quite a change in the overall leaderboards, which we'll get in a minute.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to see those overall leaderboards, how it all changes in just one game. But let's talk about Invictus a little bit, because what a performance it was. And I talked about Bryn. He's dropping 2.3k damage. The man is an animal, Dan Gaskin. 5 kills for him, 3 assists. That is a standout performance from the man they call Bryn.
That is what you need from your arguably kind of main slayer, as it were. The person who's playing on the Wraith, the person who's going to be getting in and out of those fights, who's going to be getting in people's faces and doing that damage. Maybe not always necessarily getting the KP, sometimes that can be finished off by the other 2 players, but he was still picking up those kills too. And IG will be delighted with that, because after an amazing week 1 and an okay week 2 and 3, it looks like they're going to round out with a fantastic week 4 here, finishing minimum, I'd say, top 3, and they might just scrape 2nd place.
Yeah, one of the hardest working teams in the whole of the ALGS for sure as well. The amount of time they put in away from the game is something that can certainly be, put forward to people to recognise why you should be a fan of Invictus Gaming. And they really do put in the hours to make sure that they right the wrongs of previous weeks as well. So congratulations to them on a final win of the day. But I just want to see these final standings, to be honest with you. And I'm very interested to see what's going to happen. So to do so, we're actually going to bring Kate back into the conversation. Are you a Bryn fan, Kate? Because I think I might be the biggest Bryn fan, but I'm pretty sure you're going to be like on a level, you know?
I'll go up there with you. That's fine. I'm fair. You know, the reality with Bryn, I think, is that he does have these pop-off moments, but my gosh, that guy is cool, calm, and collected, and it shows in that lobby. It's crazy what he can do with the firepower that he's got. I want to real quick talk about this as we take a look at these highlights here from game number 6. Couldn't help but notice, gang. Dan, I'm going to start with you here. This was the only team comp in our winner circle here that didn't field a Gibby. I think that's a big, important point because we've had Gibraltar's every single place all around the sun here today. What does that tell us about how they got through today, and is it have anything to do with the zones? Just basically tell me a story here, Gaskin.
I think Invictus Gaming have adjusted not to play with Gibby for, since week 1 of this this ALGS tournament. They are comfortable enough that they can get into final zones and they can use the objects and the buildings that are there or thereabouts, that they don't need a bubble. They don't put themselves in a position where they have to bubble. Yes, okay, there will be certain circles where they'll be vulnerable because of that, but this was not one of them. They played it perfectly. They had the high ground, they got into the circle early enough, and they were also racking up that KP. I feel like a lot of teams rely too heavily on the Gibraltar. We do see, of course, the majority of teams having Gibraltar anyway, but he's a get-out-of-jail-free card at times. And Invictus looks like they don't want to rely on that. Instead, they just focus on their strengths. They focus on the information they can gather with the crypto and the defensive abilities that the Caustic offers them, as well as just having a Wraith to go absolutely nuts. But Invictus, they popped off, and they did enough to send themselves way up that leaderboard.
Yes, and those leaderboards are certainly something we're going to pay attention to. In fact, we're going to do it right now. That's right. Onset. I want your response to this. That is a fairly hefty, impressive point.
Look how tight it is, though. Just across the board, Kick, the KP they picked up in that last game gives them first place. It overturns the deficit that they did have on Rebel, who fall down into second place. By the way, shout out to Rebel, because it is about time, to be honest with you. We've seen them at the right end of the leaderboards for those 3 players' sakes. IG with a big win in that last game, jump up 5 places into 3rd. And we've seen how one game changes everything. We see on Twitter all the time teams going, if it wasn't for Game 6, we would have got X. But Game 6 happens. It counts just as much as all the other ones. And that for IG is a big performance. Alliance, though, they're going to be really, really devastated. 55 points, and second place on 58. If they have a little bit of better decision-making in that final game, they could have taken home second. That could be a real heartbreaker for them.
And I was going to say, Gaskin, let's talk about number 5. They're underrated. Of course, Swinney no longer in that team, but here they are. They have done an incredible job today. I guess what I'm saying is that a team at 32, literally on that bubble, needed this exact kind of win total.
Yeah, I think they'll be delighted after making a change that they still competed at the highest level today. They were able to, get a victory. They were able to be there or thereabouts in those final circles. They were able to be a nuisance. They got unlucky at times. They got unfortunate at times, but that happens in Apex Legends in a battle royale. You sometimes have to overcome that, and they put themselves in a good spot where they were able to finish in 5th. Also, my maths was just off because Pierre being able to survive those extra few
Your maths
positions.
was off?
I know,
That's the only reason you're here, Dan! Your maths is...
by 1! Because Pierre was able to survive those extra couple of positions. Even Alliance thought Rebel were dead, but Pierre there, ratting, getting into that circle, does the job to get them second place. Otherwise, they would have been in 3rd. And as we've all been speaking about, that 1 extra point could do absolute wonders when it comes to the overall things, because that will be 2 extra points in the grand scheme of things in the ALGS.
I think the best thing to take away from that moment just now with these 2 fantastic analysts and casters is that you can have the most incredible headglitch, you can have the most incredible headshots and be an absolutely standout star, but in the end, you could also survive a little bit later as a rat strat and find yourself at the top of those leaderboards. It takes all kinds, and I love that. Well, speaking of all kinds, there's no I in team, but there is an ME. We'll get to that a little bit later. The point is that we are going to talk a little bit about some of these players more specifically that we've seen popping off throughout today's 6 matches for our EMEA. And that means it's time to talk the Monster MVP segment. Mr. Gaskin, I know you are chomping at the bit to talk a little bit about some of these incredible players. Tell me who had your heart today?
My heart? Whew, there's a lot of players that had my heart, but who caught my eye was OJ Rain. I think some of the damage that we saw from this man was quite extraordinary. I think you always need a player on your team who can just consistently just batter enemies down to a pulp, and whether that be from a distance with, you know, weapons with snipers or whatnot, or whether it can be just those close range SMGs and shotguns. I was very impressed with what I saw. Kick, they needed this lift, right? They had that game one where they looked amazing, and we were like, oh, okay, you know, Kick, maybe we should have been predicting them. And then they kind of dipped throughout the day, they came back up, and then that last game, I mean, Mark asked me, he said, Dan, what do you think is going to happen? And I said, you know what, I've got a feeling Kick are going to turn up, and boy did they turn up. They just were a team who had aggression at the right times, all the players seemed to be in sync, and they had great strategy. I loved the listenings, I loved seeing how they tried to decide where or whereabouts they were going.
For me,
exactly, couldn't have said it better myself. Onset, who was the apple of your eye?
For me, it's going to be Yuki from Alliance. I think Alliance looked really, really good today. They had a little bit of a disappointing Game 6, but I feel like you need to give some love to Yuki as well. The newest player to the Alliance lineup, it's easy to feel the pressure when you join an org and you join a team that's had so much success in the past, and all eyes are going to be on you. But the man has performed, and he has performed at a really good level, especially today, and I feel like he's really starting to find his feet. And that was a really good example of what Yuki has been doing today, and that is picking up vital kills at vital times in the game. A lot of the time we talk about, you know, oh, this guy's got X amount of kills over a day. That's really cool, right? But how many of those were impactful kills? How many of them saved his team in 1v1 fights? It's all about being effective and also being impactful for your team. And I think Yuki's done a really good job on Alliance today.
Yeah, 100%. And I will say I love the aspect of the beginning, the middle, and the end of a match. And I feel like Yuki is one of those players, I should say, on a squad that really has helped out not just the end game circles, but all the way from the beginning of those matches. Let's take a look at what the kill leaderboard has told us here today about these different players and what they have brought to the table. Gaskin. Ooh, and I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to Onset. You got it. Yuki, number 2, tied with Bryn there.
Tied with Bryn, but Dan wins, I'm going to say, if you're going by kills. I'll give him that one. But Yuki, I mean, you could see the impact he was having. He had the Kraber a few times. He was hitting some big shots. And he also, like I mentioned, was the last player alive in a couple of those bubble fights and managed to clutch up for his team. But across the board, you know, you're looking at like to Bryn. He had a pop-off final game there, which was really impressive. But yeah, Dan's pick, top of the leaderboards, 17 kills. That is a massive performance.
Absolutely is. Gaskin, anything last to say about what these numbers will tell us about these incredible players?
I think as we get closer to LANs, and just like sports, you know how chants happen and people make, you know, chants for their teams. Rather than Chocolate Rain, I want it to be OJ Rain, and then something to do with how many shots he hits, because he was a different class today. Kick looked amazing, and I think they'll be delighted to pick up first place here today and put themselves amongst the big boys.
Well, I have been delighted by this Monster MVP segment. Delighted is a good word. I like that word a lot here, gang, because today's program, today's incredible 6 games have certainly been delightful, to be sure. I want to real quick ask before we get to the later part of our show here. Onset to you, we heard some great listen-ins. Anything that our players here, anybody watching, can glean from those listen-ins, particularly if you're an IGL?
I think one thing that you can point out actually is, you know, we talk about the positives in IGL and how much pressure on their shoulders. In that last game, we were with Alliance during the listening, right? Sometimes it doesn't always go right. And Hacky almost said it himself. He's like, maybe we're stuck here. Maybe I've made a bad choice. I can't remember the exact verbiage of it, but sometimes you got to own up to the mistakes. And as an IGL, you're going to make mistakes, right? But it's about how you come back from that. Alliance had a good day today, and you would say that as an IGL, if you're making more good decisions than you are bad, you're having a successful day. So it is the most pressurized position in any team, to have to rotate your team and make the calls on what you want to fight, what you don't want to fight, where you want to play. So it doesn't always go right. Everyone is human. Even though Hackis is an incredible player and made some amazing calls, sometimes you got to remember these players are human too.
It's the person behind the mouse and keyboard or the controller. Speaking of one of those people, one of our people, T-Squared is standing by with a guy who's been remarkably impactful on today's lobby. Tom?
Thank you, Kate. I'm here with Yuzuko. Congratulations. I mean, big dub overall. I want to ask you, with the current overall standings, you guys were sitting in 11th place overall, top 10 make it into playoffs. Was that something that you guys discussed? How important was that for you to perform today?
I mean, of course, we are aiming for the LAN. Obviously, if we get first place, the best we can do. But We're fine. We were testing some stuff on the last LGS, and today we proved what we are able to do.
Yeah, nobody was counting you out through the entire time. Let's talk a little bit about that break going from week number 3 or round number 3 into round number 4. There's 6 rounds overall. There was a little bit of a break. Season 11 came out. What was the preparation over the last couple of weeks? Were you interested in changing anything, or what was that like going forward?
We just thought about changing Wraith by us because it's an interesting comp to play Edge. But on competitive, in my opinion, if you play Edge, sometimes you can. You cannot be consistent making points. So we just went back on Wraith, and we are not gonna change it.
Yeah, it seems to be working out. What do you think in terms of Ashe? Do you think that the players just don't have enough experience with Ashe so far, say with Wraith, or do you really just feel like Wraith is that strong right now where it's just so important to get your portals, get your Q down, make sure that you're playing aggressive? Do you think that Ashe is going to kind of make her way going forward once players get more used to her?
I don't think so, because Ashe is changing Octane completely. Like, Octane is out of the meta, but Wraith is still good for some teams. Even Edge, like, is more consistent in my opinion. The portal is the best.
I want to get your thoughts on the meta. We start off with, season 0, season 1 with the same Watson, Pathfinder, Wraith. Now we have a handful of different compositions that are being ran. Do you find that to be a lot more fun and a lot more refreshing?
It's refreshing because we are not playing the same comp for 10 seasons, but I miss the old comp, not gonna lie.
All right, so last question. I want to get your expectations for Kick. Say that you guys make it into the LAN. Say that ends up happening. What are we going to expect from Kick going for the rest of the ALGS Pro League split?
We're gonna fight for the top 1, obviously, but we need to make a couple of more points so we are secure on the LAN, and nothing else.
I love it. You got to go for first place overall. Well, hey, you guys kicked some serious butt today. Congratulations on the dub. Great final game, too. That was a very close one overall, and we'll be seeing you next week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom, and GG's, of course, to IG themselves. Well, let's take a look at who else we can give GG's to, because it's time for our talent predictions. I can tell you this right now. Spoiler alert. It's not me. Setting for me always. But let's take a look at who we had and where. Oh, look at that. The guy, the man, the myth, the legend himself on set. Just got done with the interview, but he is sitting pretty there, picking the team that got to the highest point of that leaderboard. Gaskin, let's start with you. Maestro seemingly they were number 3 in the overalls. They came in swinging.
Yeah, I mean, I predicted Maestro, but with a little bit of worry, because I knew that they did struggle when these two groups came up against each other in week number 1. But I'd say that they'd be somewhat happy to change finishing in 19th place between these two groups to then moving up to what 7th they finished or something, 7th or 8th. I think what's funnier is the fact that Mark was convinced he predicted Kick throughout this entire broadcast, and now we get confirmation he actually predicted new esports.
All of the producers are in my ear right now telling me that no, you picked new. Whatever. I don't believe it. I picked 2 teams, and I choose the one with the most points. That's how this works. Apparently.
I was wondering how it is you keep winning. Now it all makes sense. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, well done, Tom. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, hey, you know what? We can find ourselves perhaps on the redemption run ourselves with the talent predictions, because guess what? Don't even worry. We have North America B versus C happening today, 8 p.m. Eastern. For those of you on the Pacific coast of the United States, that's 5 p.m. That's 1 a.m. for the boys over there
today,
in the GMT.
Tomorrow for us, but we'll be here. Don't worry.
That's right. They're never not here. They live in this box in this dropship right here. That's I'm pretty sure how we bring Onset and Gasket in. But at any rate, any final words before we head off to go to our NA broadcast a little bit later today?
I think for me, it's just, again, it's amazing to watch these players play. And you can see, I feel like a lot of teams are starting to feel pressure now with weeks running out. For those teams, best of luck going into the final few weeks, because it's going to be a war. And I think whoever makes it into that top 10 fully deserves the plaudits they're going to quite rightly get.
But I also think it shows how closely contested the entire EMEA region is, when Kick, who were down on 11th, have just been able to win today's competition. No one is safe, and you can't let your foot off the pedal whatsoever, because as soon as you do, some of these teams are a little bit more hungry. They do just rise through the ranks, and they will take those points away from you.
No one is safe. Prepare for the war. Keep your foot on the gas. Couldn't have said it better myself, so I'm not gonna. Hey, if you want to keep up with all of this action and fun, go ahead and follow us on all the socials. You can see it right here. We're on the Twitters, right there. We're on the YouTubes, and of course, twitch.tv/playapex. That is where you want to be. And of course, stick it around right here a little bit later today, or if you're in the UK, tomorrow, for more action here on the ALGS Pro League. But for that, the casters, the crew, and our incredible staff, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.